To Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting will be hybrid, allowing participation both in person and in the City Council chamber and remotely. You can reach us on our Zoom link. You may reach us also on our Facebook Lawrence City Council page and our YouTube Lawrence City Council page. At this point, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilor Levy. Councilor Dela Cruz, noted as absent. Councilor Payano, noted as absent. Councilor Infante.
Present.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Present.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Present.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Present.
Vice President Reyes, noted as absent. Council President LaPlante.
Present. At this point, I'm going to ask us to rise for a moment of silence, and I would ask that we dedicate today's moment of silence for Captain James Mulligan, who recently passed away, and his funeral was yesterday. The rules are 2.5 minutes. After the first 2 minutes, Teresa here will ring the bell and letting you know that you've got 30 seconds left to finish up your comments. Of course, any comments are directed to the chair and not any individual city councilors. First person up this evening is Jim Bresnahan.
Hi. My name is Jim Bresnahan. My family's lived on Berkeley Street for about 70 years. There's a telephone pole that was put in 12 years ago.
Your address, please. Your address.
144 Berkeley Street. There was a telephone pole that was put in about 12 years ago from a company from Kentucky. I watched them put it in. The telephone pole leans into the street. And if you drive by it, you're going to lose your passenger mirror. All right? I've been down several times over the years. Brought pictures, and nothing's been done. About 3 weeks ago, my neighbor was pulling out of 8 Fern Street. A woman came up. Her passenger mirror hit the telephone pole. She veered into the other lane, and she tipped over my neighbor's SUV with his daughter inside. This is one of the reasons that Lawrence has the highest insurance rates in New England. It's a safety hazard. Not only that, by not paying attention to it, the city opens himself up to negligence. It's a safety hazard, and I'd like to see it addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Amali.
Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Good evening, honorable member. In this important night of a state of the city, we are proud of Lawrence Police and their union. We demand of you and Honorable Mayor Brian DePena contract for Lawrence Police now. Lawrence Police, this union of pride and honor, has done excellent job to protect our city. We demand the best contract for this police union. Million thanks to our DPW. You are the best. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for making Lawrence as a beautiful city. Now in finding the new superintendent for our city, we need a superintendent that support our teachers and the union. Lawrence looking forward to hire the best superintendent. Lawrence wants city under God, the best example of the proud support and respect for the union of firefighters, DPW teachers, and the police officers. In this important night, we stand up in support of hero first responder in our city, our wonderful police officers, firefighters. Contract for Lawrence Police now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker, I believe, is Dick Russell. Mr. Russell.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Dick Russell, 34 Cross Street. Please excuse the hat. It's not meant as a sign of disrespect to the council chamber, but it's a sign of respect towards a true American hero, Captain James A. Mulligan. Captain Mulligan and his fellow aviators made life for those of us that were on the ground in the Republic of Vietnam more bearable with their continual and on-site air support. Having seen some of the tactics of our enemy in that conflict, I hold Captain Mulligan in the highest degree of respect, not only for the job that he performed, but for the punishments that he endured during his imprisonment. Sir, I salute you and the flag you represent. Rest in peace. Now, on to Coldzilla. First, a tremendous pat on the back to the Lawrence Fire Department, who responded to many broken pipe calls. Second, hats off to all the city inspectors who had to follow behind the fire department and report whether a structure was habitable or not. Lastly, Lawrence's homeless coordinator, Kelly Burchill Fraser, deserves a big hug for everyone that she helped during the Coldzilla, be it fire or flood. Now, to the boots in the butt, the Lawrence Housing Authority for not having readily available on-call worker for weekend duty. I don't want to think of the number of property owners that did not have contact numbers listed with the fire department. All in all, Lawrence survived Coldzilla due to the professionalism of its employees. As always, I thank you for the time.
Thank you, and that is it for tonight's public participation. The names, addresses, and issue topics are now being provided to the city clerk to be put as part of our record for this evening. To what purpose do you rise, Councilor?
To the meeting tonight and the violation of the city charter.
So what is the action you're looking to take tonight, Councilor?
May I proceed with the point of personal privilege?
Personal privilege is usually related to those who've been offended in some way, and allows you an opportunity to defend yourself if taken a personal attack.
As a resident of the city of Lawrence, I am offended by what happened this month. So that's the reason as to why I'm taking this point of personal privilege. May I proceed with the point of personal privilege?
If there's any objection from the city council, this is our meeting this evening. This is unusual that we would do this. If there's no objections by the city council, the chair will allow the councilor to make his comments. Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you, Council President. I would like the city clerk to read section 3.5 C2, and then proceeding after that, we can continue.
And as a courtesy to the folks that are here, councilors, I would ask that you make your points and your comments as brief as possible. Go ahead, clerk.
Point of personal privilege, please allow me to, as a resident, taxpayer, and a councilor, allow me to proceed.
Councilor, I think I made myself clear that you are allowed to proceed.
Not with brief.
I am asking, we have a full agenda. This topic is not on tonight's agenda.
Thank you.
This council is allowing you to go ahead forward and make your comments.
Thank you so much, Council President.
It's the council that's allowing you. Go ahead,
Thank you,
clerk.
Council President. It is my right. Section 3.5 C2.
Special
meeting.
meetings of the city council may be held at the call of the mayor, as provided in section 4.8, on the call of the city council president, or on the call of any 3 or more members by written notice delivered in hand to the place of residence or business of each member at least 48 hours in advance of the time set, and which includes notice of the subject which are to be acted upon, and no other business shall be in order.
So, Council President, with that being said, this meeting that we're conducting tonight is completely out of order. With that said, if you up there, anybody,
Please address
He's
the
up
chair.
there.
Please address the chair because all comments go
Chair,
to the chair. Go ahead.
Council President, is through you. If anybody that is affected by this meeting, by any decision made tonight, this meeting is against and against the charter, and it's illegal. So, as per the charter reads. So, I just want to clarify that is, if you've been affected by this meeting, go ahead and proceed, because this is completely against our own city charter. Thank you for the point of personal privilege.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rodriguez. Let's continue on with our city council agenda. Clerk, the first document this evening is document 43422, public hearing. Will you please read the public hearing notice?
Councilors, just to be noted, this is an extremely long public notice. Document number 434-22, notice is hereby given that the Lawrence City Council will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 9th, 2023, 7:00 p.m. at a special meeting in the council chambers, 200 Common Street, Lawrence, Mass. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, and in accordance with the recently revised City Council Rule 2, this meeting will be hybrid, allowing participation both in person and remotely to accommodate any participant with health considerations that prevent them from participating in person. To receive access codes for remote participation, please contact the city clerk at eileen.burnell@cityoflawrence.com or 978-620-3230. The meeting may be viewed on Facebook and YouTube, and links are provided. The purpose of said hearing is to gather testimony, information, and public participation concerning the proposed amendment to the revised ordinance of the City of Lawrence, and be further amended by deleting the following subparagraph, section 10.45.010 of the Municipal Code, recreational vehicles. Registered and unregistered recreational motorized vehicles capable of being propelled either by gasoline, electric battery, or other fuel types, including those commonly referred to as snowmobiles, all-terrain vehicles, mini bikes, mopeds, dirt bikes, scooters, go-karts, motorized skateboards, or other like vehicles, shall not be operated on any property, private or public, without the express consent of the owner or overseer of said property. Evidence of written permission shall be in the possession of the operator of said vehicle and shall be presented upon demand of any police officer or other law enforcement officer. Every person operating such recreation motorized vehicle or riding as a passenger on such vehicle shall wear protective headgear conforming with such minimum standards of construction and performance as registrar prescribed for recreational vehicles, and no persons operating such motorized vehicles shall permit any other person to ride as a passenger on motorized vehicles unless such passenger is wearing protective headgear. In no case shall such vehicles be operated within the confines of the city between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. or upon otherwise public ways unless the vehicle and operator are in compliance with current written Massachusetts general laws. In no case shall an individual operating such vehicle on a public way or upon public property be less than 16 years of age. Any violation of this chapter is punishable by a fine of $50 for the first offense, $100 for any subsequent offenses. Violation of this section may be enforced in the matters provided for Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 21DA, and adding the following subparagraphs 10.45.010 of the Municipal Code, recreational vehicles. 10.45.010, recreational vehicles, registered and unregistered. Definitions. For the purposes of this ordinance, the phrase recreational vehicle shall have the following meaning, except in those instances where the context clearly indicates a different meaning. Any wheeled device used to carry a person or persons which is powered by any means other than muscular power alone, and which is designed or modified for the use of unimproved terrain for the recreation or pleasure, including but not limited to all-terrain vehicles, off-highway motorized vehicles, motorcycles, dirt bikes, and recreation utility vehicles. Recreational vehicles shall not include any wheelchair operated by a person with a physical disability or a similar mobility-assisted device, or by persons whose ambulatory mobility has been impaired by age, illness, or physical ailment, nor shall it include the operation of any electric vehicle not capable of speed in excess of 12.5 miles per hour on any paved sidewalk or marked pedestrian crosswalk, nor any vehicle owned or leased or operated by any government entity, including the City of Lawrence and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Recreational vehicle registration pursuant to General Law, Chapter 90B, Section 22, no recreational vehicle, as defined by General Law, Chapter 90B, Section 20, may be operated unless it is registered with the Boat, Recreational Vehicle, and Snowmobile Registration Bureau of the Mass Environmental State Police, and is a valid registration number is displayed on the vehicle. Public property property of another. No person shall operate, maintain, or possess recreational vehicles in the city of Lawrence except on private property totaling more than 2.5 acres of land and with the express permission to do so by the owner or occupant of said property. For purposes of this subsection, property of another shall include any property owner or leased by the city of Lawrence, including any Lawrence Public School property, playground, park, or conservation areas, or any land in which the city holds any conservation restriction. This subsection C shall not be applied to vehicles stored in compliance with the Lawrence zoning ordinances or to vehicles stored, parked, or displayed on property duly licensed in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Sections 57 through 69. Hazardous operations. No person shall engage in trick or stunt riding upon any public space in the city upon any recreational vehicle. An operator of any recreational vehicle shall not cause such vehicle to ride in its front wheels or raised or from the surface of the road while operating in a public space. An operator of any recreational vehicle shall not cause such vehicle to ride with its rear wheels raised from the surface of the ground while on any public space. An operator of any recreational vehicle shall not cause any side wheels of such vehicle to rise from the surface of the road or ground while operated in any public space. An operator of any recreational vehicle shall not ride in such vehicles with his or her feet, knees planted on the seat while operating in such public space. An operator of recreational vehicles shall not operate any such vehicles in a manner commonly associated with trick or stunt riding. An operator of any recreational vehicle shall not operate any vehicle with a passenger if designated for a single rider. No passenger shall ride upon any recreational vehicle that is designed for a single rider. An operator of any recreational vehicle shall not operate such vehicle with a passenger sitting or riding upon the handlebars or forward of the operator. No person shall operate such recreational vehicle. I'm sorry. No person shall operate any recreational vehicle wearing a face mask between March 15th and November 15th of any year, other than the times when ambient temperature is 45 degrees or greater measured on the Fahrenheit scale. This section shall not apply to those who wear masks for medical reasons. No owner or employee of any retail dealer of gasoline shall sell, offer for sale, or attempt to sell any article or product represented as gasoline to any person riding a recreational vehicle, except recreational vehicles on a trailer, and the trailer must be properly registered per Mass General Law, Chapter 90. Penalties. A violation of any provision of this section shall be subject to a fine of $300, and when applicable, each day constitutes a separate offense. Enforcement. The Lawrence Police Department shall have the authority to enforce any provision of this ordinance and to promulgate rules and regulations necessary to implement and enforce this ordinance. Additionally, the Director of Inspectional Services and the Director of the Department of Public Works shall have the authority to enforce subsection C, unregistered vehicles, and subsection D, public property of another herein. The Lawrence Fire Department shall have the authority to enforce the provisions of this ordinance or any statute, regulation of code as it relates to this ordinance involving the storage or use of flammable fluids. Nothing herein shall prevent any city official, agency, department, board, or commission with care, custody, and control of any public property from enforcing any provision of this ordinance or from promulgating rules and regulations necessary to implement and enforce any provisions of this ordinance as it may relate to such property. The provisions of General Law, Chapter 40, Section 21D may be used to punish violations of this section. Impoundment. The Lawrence Police Department shall have the authority to impound any recreational vehicle found in violation of this ordinance and shall not release any impounded vehicle until final disposition of all criminal and/or civil charges relating to the operation or storage of any recreational vehicle, nor until proof of ownership and operation under General Law, Chapter 90B, Section 22 is verified. The Lawrence Police Department shall have the authority to obtain warrants authorizing entry upon private lands and into private buildings and to enforce this ordinance. Applicability. If any provision of these sections imposes greater restrictions or obligations than is imposed by other general laws, special laws, regulations, rules, regulations, or ordinances, or policies, then the provisions of these sections shall control. To the extent that there exists any ordinances to the contrary, they are hereby repealed in that respect only. Persons wishing to be heard on this matter shall be afforded the opportunity.
Thank you, Clerk. The public hearing is now open. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this matter? As always, your name, welcome to the school committee member. Name and address, please, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council. Jonathan Guzman, 39 Lynn Street. Today I stand before you in support of item 434/22, ordinance proposal for recreation motorized vehicle. I think that this ordinance would be a step forward in reducing unregistered motorized vehicles such as dirt bikes that are common in our city. I believe that together we are able to protest this illegal behavior by preventing them from obtaining gasoline from any gas station within the city of Lawrence. You might think that these riders can just go to the next city in the next town to get gasoline, and, you know, that's right. But I think that we're able to start this conversation, and I'm confident that by the passage of this particular ordinance, discussions will begin in neighboring cities and towns to do the same. And I plead you to please vote yes on this when it comes before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. I do see, clerk, will you please call the roll? I see that Councilor Payano, I'm sorry, Senator Payano is with us remotely.
Oh. Counselor Payano.
Present.
Thank you, Senator. At this point, the public hearing is now closed. I'm looking for a motion. Motion to approve. Motion made by Councilor Levy, seconded by Councilor Del Rosario.
Discussion.
Discussion. Councilor Infante.
Thank you, Council President. I first would like to start off by thanking Councilor Levy for this initiative. I think it's really important, and it's something that's definitely needed in our city. The area where I have some questions is under Section G in enforcement. And I'm bringing this to the council's attention because when District E was having issues with these types of vehicles, I was in constant communication with the Lawrence Police Department, and I learned a few things, like, for example, the challenges that police departments, not only in our city, but in other communities as well, face when drivers run off. And also, the lack of personnel to keep up with such a citywide issue. So my question is, how are we going to support our police department, fire department to ensure that this gets enforced? And I do see the police department here, so through you, if they have anything, I would like to hear it, Council President.
Good evening, councilors. Jay Cirillo, Lieutenant, Lawrence Police Department. Again, as the councilors know, this has been a problem that's been plaguing the city and pretty much the Merrimack Valley for the last couple of years. As you mentioned, Councilor, there is a lot of issues with it. There's a lot of things that we can't do, but I feel that the passage of this, like the school committee member said, will certainly help us in the enforcement and the reduction of these vehicles being operated in the city. Just so the council knows, in 2022, we formed a task force with area departments, Methuen, Haverhill, North Andover, Lowell, Tewksbury, Chelmsford. So we formed a task force to address this issue. We had somewhere around 80 incidents in the city of Lawrence, and I can tell you it was due to the task force, the sharing of the information that I think we towed somewhere around 60 dirt bikes, and we arrested 25 people. So again, it's these little things, the passage of this ordinance, the forming of the task force, that is going to go a long way in reducing it. And again, I don't think that we've eliminated it by any means, but I think it was a lot better this year than it was last year. Working with the neighboring departments like Lowell and Methuen, we're able to, they have a thing in Lowell on Tuesday nights, which is like a bike night in Lowell. Working with organizers there, we got them to cancel that bike night, which reduced the number of packs that, we used to see the packs of 25, 30, 40 of them. We're not seeing those anymore. So again, I think the passage of this will assist us in not only not being able to fuel in the city of Lawrence, but it'll also, like the councilor said, other cities and towns that are in this task force are going to follow suit. So I'd ask that the Lawrence City Council be the leaders in this, in passing this first, so that the neighboring towns could help us enforce this. And again, as far as enforcement, with the task force, that gives us a lot more officers out on the street to do the work, not only here, but across Merrimack Valley.
Thank you.
Question? Councilor Rodriguez.
Speaking of this meeting that is out of order on my end, I would like to extend my opinion in regard to the enforcement. And therefore, after that, I would like to ask for the councilors to consider the necessity of not putting this at risk in terms of passing it tonight, because it could be challenged at any court. And, well, the first thing that I would like to ask in terms of the enforcement, once you perhaps identify somebody that have a bike that is considered an RV, and it is not registered perhaps, but it's still on the street, how you are going to get to those properties to be able to get those bikes?
So again, like I said, it poses a big problem. As you know, officers attempt to stop these vehicles. These vehicles do not stop for us. It's very difficult to identify them because they don't have plates or stickers. So again, that poses a big problem for us. We have been fortunate to use some different techniques and that I probably wouldn't want to disclose at this time, that we use to follow these individuals and to find out where they're storing them. So those are the techniques that we would use to follow them back to the locations where they're being stored.
So are you using section 40B out of the inspection or services departments to be able to get into the properties if needed?
We do, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Do
Again,
you,
this ordinance will also give inspectional services, the DPW, and the fire department the teeth to enforce this ordinance along with us. So it, again, we can hit it from all angles.
just want to make sure that once we do what we need to do in regard to this, we have all the tools available.
Correct.
Do you refer to in anywhere on the ordinance that we're going to be working with other departments
Yes, sir.
to be able to, I mean, I wasn't able to read that specifically somewhere.
So if you look to H in enforcement, it says Lawrence Police Department will have the authority to enforce.
Impounding?
What's that?
Impoundment?
No, enforcement, H.
Oh, H, okay. H?
What I have on my thing, but.
I have it on G.
Yeah, so I have enforcement. Under enforcement, it would give inspectional services, the DPW, fire, and police authority to enforce the ordinance.
It says that the director of inspection or service, meaning anybody of the inspection or service?
Liaison, yep.
Okay, gotcha. Because that, I read that part, but I want to make sure that anybody in the department, it's able to do the work.
Right, from the department.
Any liaison from the department that work, there'll be a task force is what it will end up being.
Right, I just want to make sure that if it is any loophole, I go against the law. And I'm going to repeat that again. If there is any loophole, and councilors know why I'm using this word, because it's going to happen later on today. I don't want this law to be affected by that stuff.
At this point, I'm going to ask Attorney Hooten to keep his attorney hat on for 1 second. There was apparently there was going to be a familiar refrain here regarding the challenge of the legality of this meeting. And I think it's important that the council I mean, of course, I've consulted with you on this and the city clerk before we did this, but I think it's important that the council receives assurances this evening that this is a lawful meeting, that notice was sent out in a proper manner in accordance with the charter, and I think it's important to hear that from you.
Might I defer on that? May I ask the counselor a question?
You may.
What is the problem with this meeting?
On section 3.5C2, specifically says special meeting of the city council might be held at the call of the mayor as provided in section 4.8. And on the call of the city council president, which is the case tonight, and the call of any 3 members of the city council by writing notice delivered in hands In what? Anybody get this notice in hands?
Yeah, I sent a police officer each of your hands.
To where?
Whoever Teresa, the rest of the envelopes. We sent out 9.
I didn't get her in hands.
Officer May Sandoval brought notice to each person's home.
I didn't get that.
Lieutenant, you were, I think, part of this. Can you please provide some assurance to the council? These notices were provided by hand to city councilors.
These notices were provided by hand by myself and Officer May Sandoval.
And on what date and what time?
I started delivering them at 4 o'clock. I believe she did the same thing. I think she picked them up from City Hall roughly 3:15, 3:30 in that ballpark. And Yep.
I know that I discussed this with the city clerk, and I want to make, because I want to make sure that it happened, because my intention is not to
So I can tell you
bring
that...
this up. I actually
tell you that I
talked
served-
to you about that.
I
Yes.
specifically did it because you specifically requested, I know,
No.
but because you brought it up, I specifically arranged for the police to do it. I had Teresa address the envelopes, we put out a notice with the full agenda so that it went to each person's home.
I
We had
can
the
tell you
officer
that
come. I told her it had to be
I
delivered before
served
7 PM.
Councilor Levy in hand, Councilor LaPlante, Councilor Infante's mother, Councilor Reyes' house.
Did you hand deliver it to me?
I didn't do yours. Mace, Officer...
Thank you.
Officer
And then
Sandoval.
that's why I'm calling this meeting out of order, because I did not receive it.
Well,
But
I didn't-
we might proceed. No, I understand.
no, I didn't hand it to you.
No.
The other officer went to your house.
Can you provide assurances, Lieutenant, that the officer went to every city councilor's house?
Yes.
Thank you.
Council President, I'm telling you that I didn't receive it, and you need to believe my word first, as a councilor. I'm the member of this body, okay? Thank you.
Counselor, who's got the floor? So is that it for this question regarding the legality of it? Thank you. Are there any other city councilors? I think we established what's the deal here. I see Councilor Del Rosario, you want the floor.
Thank you, Council President, through you. When it comes to enforcement, it is illegal at this time, and I know everywhere, to just buy gasoline in a gallon that you water. You have to have a disposable gasoline tank or something like that, right? But I seen around, these kids go to the gas station with little gallons to get $1 or $2 of gas to put in this. How is, or who is, going to enforce this in the gas station, or what will be the violation code or the enforcement, or what they're going to pay for violating this? Because I see them in every gas station that I've been in Lawrence with little gallons getting $2 or $3 of gas at this time, and that is illegal.
Yeah.
But they still sell it to those kids, or
So-
to everybody that goes with a gallon.
So again, I think we'll have to have some education on this matter to the filling stations of the city. It'll be relatively easy, I believe, to lock on half-inches, some of the bigger ones, and then we'd have to start with the smaller ones. But certainly, there'd be some education on the topic, and then there'd be some enforcement. We'd have to set up some surveillance to make sure that these filling stations were abiding by the city ordinance, and if they weren't, they'd be subject to the fine, and then they'd be subject to licensing.
Any other counselors? Seeing none, there's a
Motion
motion.
to table.
There's a, so there is the counselor, I will recognize a motion to table. Is there a second to the motion? Seeing none, the motion fails. At this point, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilman Fontaine. My apologies. Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilor Payano? I hear a yes. Councilor Del, absent. Councilor Levy? Yes. Council Vice President, absent. Council President LaPlante?
Yes, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors.
The next item is item 4123. I suspect there's going to be a comment on that. The mayor has asked, and I'm hopeful that we can honor this by not, because of a lot of the circumstances that we're facing in our city, that we not deal with that this evening. At the end of this meeting, we can discuss more about the potential of having a follow-up meeting. Each counselor is aware of what this is going to take. I will move on to document number 4223. We'll get back to 4123 later. 4223 is a citation recognizing City Councilor at-large Pavel and Piano. I received notification from Senator Piano that he has asked if we could just not deal with it this evening and that we could deal when he's present here in the City Council chambers. The next document is 4323, comments regarding Captain James A. Mulligan, Jr. I put this on the City Council agenda, and I have a brief comment that I'd like to make at this point regarding the captain. Captain James A. Mulligan, Jr., United States Navy, recently passed at the age of 96. He was born in Lawrence and had very strong ties to Lawrence and the Merrimack Valley. He went to Lawrence schools, graduated from Central Catholic, and began a training program with the Navy before the end of World War II. He served as a naval aviator in the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Between deployments, he graduated from Merrimack College as its valedictorian. He had carrier duty during the Bay of Pigs invasion and the Cuban Missile Crisis, and was on alert status to launch nuclear weapons on the order of the president. While in Vietnam, he was shot down and captured. He spent nearly 7 years in captivity, often in solitary confinement and in leg irons. Since he was uncooperative with his captors, Captain Mulligan was removed from the, quote, Hanoi Hilton and experienced starvation and torture in a place the prisoners of war called Alcatraz. He was one of the 11 men who received this most brutal treatment. Captain Mulligan was released on February 12th, 1973, and we are nearing that 50-year anniversary. He was highly decorated with many honors, including the Silver Star with 1 gold medal. Captain Mulligan was a true American hero who responded to his nation's call multiple times and suffered extensively because of his patriotism and his duty. He was a man of faith, and because of that faith and his devotion to his wife, Louise Mulligan, he survived his Vietnam ordeal. Captain Mulligan found strength, and through his formative years in our city, our parochial schools, our churches, and his family, he leaned on this foundation when hope was a sliver and despair was at its peak. He retired in Virginia Beach, Virginia, with Louise. She died 6 months ago and was a national leader in the wives' efforts to make their government more forthcoming about the POWs. Our city dedicated squares to both because of their exemplary service to our nation and the honor they both bestowed on their native city. In 1973, the city sponsored a welcome home parade with press reports, if you can believe this, of over 100,000 people in attendance. Lawrence remembers Captain James Mulligan. We are sad that he passed, but we are proud to claim him as our son. In our city's short and rich history, he has no peers. I want to thank every counselor here who's been so supportive of what and who Captain Mulligan is and was, what he has meant to our city, the extreme sacrifice, and thank you for allowing me to make these comments this evening. One of the things, and I know many of you kind of wanted to have a chance to go down to the funeral. I know the Councilor Infante went, State Representative Reyes went. We were lucky. We were lucky to be able to go. Our schedules, we were lucky. And because of that, we had an opportunity to show the gratitude that this city had for an amazing man and an amazing family. And it was very rich and very powerful. And I can speak, I think, for myself and maybe others that we are glad that we went. And it was appreciated by many that we went there. Tonight is also very special because the city clerk has let me know that the White Fund has offered to each of us a book that tells the story of Louise Mulligan, because their story is a story of 73 years of marriage, Jim and Louise Mulligan, and so what she was doing at home was important to what he was dealing with in Vietnam. So, Madam Clerk, would you be willing to provide a book for each of the city councilors through the generosity of the White Fund? Thank you.
Council President?
Councilor Infante.
Thank you. While the clerk passes the books, I do want to say that I was pleasantly surprised during the funeral of how deep the Lawrence connection was in that space. And we heard stories from people, Central Catholic graduates, people that still have connections to family that live here in Methuen, and to echo your sentiment, it was very, very, very much appreciated that officials took time to attend this funeral, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to attend.
Thank you very much, Councilor. And Madam Clerk, please, on behalf of the City Council, to reach us, thank the White Fund for their generosity and letting us know a little bit more about Louise Mulligan, who is from Lawrence. The square was dedicated for her, and of course, thank you for, and of course, Captain Mulligan is intrinsic in what she was trying to accomplish, which is the freedom from his captors back in between 1966 and 1973. With that, we'll move on to our agenda items. Ordinance Committee is next up, I believe. Looking to the Vice Chair for document, let's give the clerk 1 second to get the. Madam Vice Chair of the Ordinance Committee, will you please give the committee report on document number 159, what you said? 22. Go ahead, Madam Chair. Motion is made by the Vice Chair, seconded by Councilor Infante. Discussion. Seeing none, Clerk, please call the roll. Because Senator Payan is with us, we're going to have to call the roll on every vote. Go ahead, Clerk.
Yes.
He said yes. Okay.
Councilor Rodriguez?
I'm voting present to everything today.
Yes.
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 Yes. The motion carries. The next document. Document is document number 24422, and I'm saying this slowly, Madam Chair, to give the clerk a little opportunity to get the paperwork in front. That's okay. Madam Chair, will you please give the committee a report on that document?
Yes, thank you. 24422 is a no parking sign, 136 Beaufort Street by Rosa Quesada, and it was recommended to withdraw this item, and I do it as a formal motion.
Motion made.
Second.
Del Rosario, discussion. Seeing none, Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes. Councilor Dela Cruz? Noted as absent.
Present.
Yes.
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 Yes, the motion is adopted to order a public hearing. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, to withdraw, my apologies. The next document is document number 29722. Madam Vice Chair of the Ordinance Committee, will you please read the committee report?
Thank you. 29722 is as a stop sign, Forest Street, Southeast Forest Street and Crescent Street, facing Forest Street. It was submitted by Councilor De Rosario and is sent to a public hearing, and I do it as a formal motion.
Motion's been made and seconded by Councilor Selena Reyes. Discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the roll?
I'm sorry, Councilor Infante.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Present.
Councilor Payano.
Yes.
Councilor Dela Cruz, noted as absent. Councilor Levy.
Yes.
President Estela Reyes, noted as absent. Council President.
Yes, the motion is adopted. The next document is document number 29822. Madam Chair of the Ordinance Committee, will you please read your committee report?
Document 29822, stop sign, Forest Street, Northeast Forest Street and Crescent Street, facing Crescent Street. It was submitted by Councilor De Rosario and is being sent to a public hearing, and I do it as a formal motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by the sponsor, Councilor Del Rosario. Discussion. Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Councilor Dela Cruz is noted as absent. Councilor Payano.
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Infante.
Yes.
Vice President is noted as absent. Council President LaPlante.
Yes. The motion is adopted. The next document is document number 30122, handicap parking at 41 Milton Street. I'll ask the committee chair, vice chair, to please read the committee report.
Document 30122 is a handicap parking, 41 Milton Street by Dolores Cedeño, and it was recommended for withdrawal, and I do it as a formal motion.
There's a motion to withdraw. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Council Del Rosario. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will now ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilor Infante.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilor Payano.
Yes. Yes.
Councilor Dela Cruz is noted as absent. Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Council Vice President Reyes, noted as absent. Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion is adopted. The next document is document number 30922, and this would be for handicap parking at 182 Water Street. At this time, I'll ask the Vice Chair of the Ordinance Committee to give the committee report.
Document 30922, handicap parking, 182 Water Street by Gregoria Reynoso, and it's being ordered a public hearing, and I do it as a formal motion.
Motion's been made, seconded by Councilor Selena Reyes. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll. Clerk?
Councilor Infante.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilor Payano.
Yes. Yes.
Councilor Dela Cruz, noted as absent. Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Vice President Estela Reyes, noted as absent. Council President LaPlante.
Yes. The motion is adopted. The next document is document number 35322, and that's handicap parking at 23 Springfield Street. I'll ask the Madam Vice Chair of the Ordinance Committee to please give the committee report.
Document 35322, handicap parking, 23 Springfield Street by Wilfred J. Mercury, and it was ordered a public hearing, and I do it as a formal motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? It's properly seconded by Councilor Selena Reyes. Discussion. Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Levy.
Yes.
Counselor Dela Cruz is noted as absent. Counselor Payano.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Present.
Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Infante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Estela Reyes noted as absent. Council President LaPlante.
Yes. The motion is adopted. The next document is document number 35922, handicap parking at 265 Prospect Street. Madam Vice Chair of the Ordinance Committee.
Document 35922 is the handicap parking, 265 Prospect Street by Jose A. Torres, and it was ordered a public hearing, and I do it as a formal motion.
A motion has been made. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Selena Reyes. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Infante. Counselor Selena Reyes. Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Giovanni Rodriguez.
Present.
Counselor Payano.
Yes.
Counselor Dela Cruz is noted as absent. Counselor Levy.
Yes.
Council Vice President Estela Reyes is noted as absent. Council President LaPlante.
Yes. The motion is adopted. The next document is document number 40422, Platt Street, one-way. Madam Vice Chair of the Ordinance Committee, would please give the committee report.
Document 40422, Platt Street, one-way by Councilor Maria de la Cruz. It was recommended for withdrawal, and I do it as a formal motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Del Rosario. Is there any discussion? Discussion, Councilor Del Rosario.
Thank you, Council President. Any reason why De La Cruz is withdrawing this? I was here when the constituents of that street were actually concerned. One of them was a pastor with church, and there's no reason why it's being just withdrawn.
Is there any members of the committee who wish on this item to provide some context to the question?
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
please.
Can I just interject? This might be helpful. I'm just noticing on the notes that Councilor De La Cruz herself, I believe, is the one that was looking to have this withdrawn. So I don't know if that helps answer the question. It doesn't say as to why, but at least she's aware of it, and it is her matter, if that's helpful. Councilor Levy?
Thank you, Council President. I think so that that is what I think so that she spoke with some of the members of the area, And then after speaking with them, they decided, just to withdraw the item until we had the story from the engineer. And then I think that they're gonna put it again after we got that, any information.
I mean, we can go with the withdrawal, I don't mind, but it makes no sense to withdraw it. How are they gonna assess a study if we withdraw the item? But, I mean, it's up to her, that's fine. I mean, I'm concerned, the people were here, I actually walked with them with the street. That street is extremely narrow. To clean the street, the snow removal plows, the plows cannot go in. And that was the concern of the constituents. It's a small street. It's like extremely small street, but I'll go with the withdrawal. I mean, it's not my district.
So the committee, that is the committee report. They voted unanimously. I have no dog in this fight. Councilor Infante?
Thank you. I have the same questions as my colleague, and I would like to give the opportunity to have Councilor Dela Cruz here to clarify things. So if the vice chair agrees, I would like to make a motion to table this until Councilor Dela Cruz is present.
There is a motion properly made to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Del Rosario. No discussion on a tabled matter. I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Infante.
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Giovanni Rodriguez. Counselor Pavel Payano.
Present.
Counselor Dela Cruz is noted as absent. Counselor Levy.
Yes.
Counselor Vice President Estela Reyes is noted as absent. Council President LaPlante.
Yes.
We have 5 votes. You're all set.
The motion, according to the clerk, we're all set. The motion to table is passed. The next document is document number 41022. This is the roadway assessment and proposed modifications.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're going to stall a little bit, but I'm going to look to the Vice Chair of the Ordinance Committee to give the committee report. Madam Vice Chair.
Item 1422 is the roadway assessment and proposed modification. So it was sent to Felix Garcia at the time. Then we had the new engineer, and it was sent to public hearing to be ordered, and I do it as a formal motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Del Rosario. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. Clerk?
Counselor Levy.
Yes.
Counselor Maria Dela Cruz is noted as absent. Counselor Payano. Counselor Payano. Counselor Giovanni Rodriguez.
Present?
Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Infante.
Yes.
Counselor Estela Reyes is noted as absent. Counselor LaPlante.
Yes. Did you recorded Senator Payano?
I didn't hear him.
Do you want to call him one more time?
Counselor Payano.
Senator Payano, we are not hearing you. I'm going to drop the mic here for a second and give 3 seconds and then say your vote if you have a vote on this. Councilor, Senator Payano, what we're going to do is that we're going to move on with the agenda. That can't be some issues here, so we will, we can always come back to you if you wish to register a vote on this. We will gladly accept it because of the technical issues. At this point, the motion is what's the number on this vote, clerk?
It's currently at 5 if he voted
It's five. There's already going to be a motion to adopt is there, but Senator, we will allow you to have an opportunity to vote before the evening is done on this matter. The next document is document number 1923. This is the ratification of the 2023 election schedule, and I'm looking to the Vice Chair of the Ordinance Committee to give the committee report.
Document 1923 is the ratification of 2023 election schedule, and that was by City Clerk Eileen Bernal and also the City Clerk election Richard Reyes. Can I say, Mayor?
Was there, I'm sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. Was there a motion was there a motion there?
Yes.
Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Councilor Del Rosario.
Discussion.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like the city clerk to explain a little bit what is this item regarding the election that is coming this year. Please.
Thank you, Counselor. So we have our municipal elections this fall, and this is the election schedule. The schedule is based on requirements from both the ordinances and the state law. So the dates are specifically set based on the requirements of the ordinance and the state law. We do also send this to the elections office at the Secretary of State's in Boston for review and their review and approval, just to make sure that it's also compliant with state law, which it was. I work closely with Richard Reyes, who's excellent, and we're really grateful for all of his contributions. But basically, it outlines when nomination papers become available, when those need to be submitted back by, when they need to be certified and nominated by the Board of Registrars, when the objections are due, when the actual primary election will occur, and then also when the actual general election will occur, as well as the dates for absentee ballots and similar things relating to both of those elections, which will be next fall. The election schedule was provided in both English and Spanish, and we are asking the council to ratify that schedule at this time.
Councilor Levy, were you able to get that, or is there an issue there with?
Yeah, he just wanted me to say it into the record.
Oh, so we're good. Okay, very good. All right. Anybody else wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilor Infante.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilor Pavel Payano.
Yes.
Councilor Maria Dela Cruz is noted as absent. Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Councilor Estela Reyes, Vice President Estela Reyes is noted as absent. Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion passes. At this point, we're looking at document number 2023, a determination regarding the vote by mail and in-person early voting for primary and general elections. I'm going to look to the Vice Chair of the Ordinance Committee to please give the committee report.
Item 2023 is a determination regarding vote by mail and in person, the early voting for the primary and the general election. So this is by City Clerk Eileen Bernal, also by Election Clerk Richard Reyes. I rise to meet it as a formal motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Selena Reyes. Discussion. Madam Vice Chair, would you care for the clerk to talk a little bit about what this is?
Yes, please.
Madam Clerk?
There's basically two different on this item at all. The first, with regard to presume that you want to vote by mail, and would mean that you are having vote by mail. You could because there's expenses related to vote by mail, you can opt out of vote by mail. So you take an affirmative vote to say we do not want to have vote by mail. You'd affirmatively vote for that, or just no vote, we'll leave it as is. So the second is if you want to have early voting. You can have early voting for up to 15 days before your election, which is roughly 2 weeks. That would be for both your primary election and your general election. No vote would mean that you do not want to have early voting. So if you do not vote on that item tonight, you would not have early voting, and that's okay. There's expenses associated with early voting, so the state does not mandate that we have them. But if you want to, you can have early voting for as little as, I believe the minimum you could, once you adopt it, the minimum you could have it for is 3 days. The maximum you can have it for is 15 days. And it would stop that Saturday before your election, no matter what. So you could, like a half a week, a full week, 2 weeks, however you want to structure that. And then you would do 2 votes. One is if you want to have early voting for your primary and how long, and then one if you have early voting for your general election and how long. So tonight, you're looking for as much as 4 votes. 2 would be to vote out of vote by mail for the primary, vote out of vote by mail for the general, opt into early voting for the primary, and opt into early voting for your general. No votes would mean you're gonna, yes, you will have vote by mail, and no, you won't have early voting live and in person. So
It does make sense, but what I think it will be important for the membership as we make the votes is if you could, it sounded like there were potentially 4 votes here. If you could guide us through each vote, that way, or each substance. One of them we may need to vote on, and one we may not, but if you can just guide us through each one, that way we're all clear as to what we're voting on.
So maybe if you want to do like an informal poll, if people are inclined to keep vote by mail, if everyone is inclined to keep vote by mail, then you wouldn't have to vote on it at all. We just have vote by mail. That would be understood. If you're not inclined to have vote by mail.
Mr. President?
I'm going to look to Councilor Selena Reyes, and then I'm going to go there to Councilor Levy. Councilor Levy, you got the floor. Councilor Levy? I'm Councilor Reyes. Did you wish to say something? Did you wish to say something?
Yes, I want more clarification about that part.
So the state presumes you want vote by mail, but there's expenses associated with vote by mail, so they can't make you have it. So if you'd like to have vote by mail, we don't have to do anything. So then it's understood that if we took no action tonight, it's presumed that you have vote by mail for your primary and vote by mail for your general elections without any votes. If you say, those are expensive and we'd prefer not to have vote by mail, or it's inconvenient or whatever it is, you can opt out of vote by mail by having an affirmative, you'd make a motion to opt out of vote by mail for the primary and another motion to opt out of vote by mail for your general. So you just want to be aware that you have those choices, but if you don't make any choices on those 2 items, it's presumed that you have vote by mail. Does that make sense? Vote by mail is similar to an absentee ballot, but for an absentee ballot, you have to have a reason, versus vote by mail, you don't have to have a reason. You can just get an absentee ballot or a ballot early and just submit it by mail. Similar to an absentee ballot, but without cause.
Mr. President?
Councilor Levy?
Thank you, Council President. Okay. So we have 4 ways to vote. So we have the early voting, so that we start voting over here, 1 week, 2 weeks before. We have the by mail right now also, that they have to send it to the 40,000 people that are registered to vote. We have the absentee ballot that is for any reason, and also we have the people who's coming present on the day of the election. If we decided to continue on the way that it is, like last year, we had almost 2 weeks we start doing the voting over here. We don't have to do anything. This group doesn't have to do anything. But according to what I'm here, or what it was discussed at the meeting before, is like the cost of the early voting, so knowing that not too much people coming to vote, because we have, the money can be used maybe for something else, or start voting early like a 1 week or 2 weeks before.
Council President?
I wish, you have the floor still. You wish to retain it?
I haven't finished yet. Okay. By mail, so they have to also spend a lot of time, money, and doing all the mailing, okay, so people to vote. And the absentee, everybody know about it, and the present one. At the meeting, what I say is like maybe on the primary, we don't have to do like the early voting and the by mail. But taking into consideration by the final election, so we should, again, come over here and discuss it. That was my discussion at the meeting.
At this point, I just want to make sure that we fully understand what the vote is. And is there any discrepancies or anything that you would modify what the counselor just said, or can you help with that?
Yeah, I don't want to misquote anyone. I thought I heard the counselor say, if we didn't do anything tonight, we would have early voting. This year we had early voting in your primary and your general election. People came to this council chambers and voted for the 2 weeks before. If you want to have early voting like that, you have to affirmatively vote tonight to adopt that. The state is not making you do that, so there's expenses that they may not be willing to reimburse us for. They reimburse us for a lot of our election expenses. So if you want to have early voting for your primary and you want to have early voting for your general, you need to vote affirmatively to do those things tonight. And you also need to set a time frame. Do you want it for 15 full days, which is the maximum, the minimum, or some portion thereof? So for the early voting, you have to take an action if you want to have it. For the vote by mail, if you don't take any action, it's presumed that you want it and that you will have it. But if you don't want vote by mail, then we would vote affirmatively to get rid of those. But early voting, if you want it, you definitely have to vote affirmatively to adopt that tonight. It's presumed you don't want it if you don't vote for it.
I think I heard Councilor Rodriguez who wishes to speak, and then I see Senator Payano's hand is up. So I'm going to go with Councilor Rodriguez first, and then Senator Payano. Go ahead, Councilor.
All right, thank you, Council President. What is the time frame for this?
The state is asking us to get these in now. Like the state actually, I mean, if you want to table it for a week or two, but believe it or not, they want these determinations as soon as possible. So
do you have a specific day that it's time? I mean, before when we used to vote on this, it was 45 days before the election, the primary election? I mean, is that still the case?
Some communities have already submitted January 1st. So like, yes, we can August to we really don't want to do that. The state is actually asking us to submit it now, and many communities have already done that. Like when we have meetings with the elections office, they let us know that other communities have already submitted their dates. So they're encouraging us to get them as soon as possible.
Do you mind sending the council a specific instructions as of what each of those means?
Sure.
I understand it very clearly, but I mean, I guess that...
I did give you guys a memo back with the package, and maybe it's not clear enough. Maybe I could break it down for you better.
One by one. I mean...
What?
One by one. Like...
Sure, you break out all 4. Okay. I broke it into 2, but I'll break it into 4, and that's fine. I can do that, no problem.
Mr. President, my intention is to shadow object this item at the end of the discussion. So I would like you to recognize the shadow objection once we finish the discussion.
You're gonna
What the counselor is saying is that he's providing a courtesy to other counselors to be able to speak, but he wishes to, and I will recognize him because he's given the courtesy of this. I will allow him to offer a charter objection when we exhaust discussion. I do see Senator Payano's hand up. Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Councilor Rodriguez, for giving me the opportunity.
Senator
Not
Payano,
through the charter.
I'm going to have to ask you
Can you hear me?
Senator Payano, I'm going to have to ask you to desist with your, we don't have a quorum at this point, but we will in about 30 seconds.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, what? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, sorry. Senator Payano, math was never my strong suit. You have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. No, so I want to thank Council Rodriguez for giving me the opportunity to speak before he did the charter objection. You know, I just want to say that I think that it is extremely important for us to have both mail-in vote and early vote. I think it's an opportunity to expand on the amount of people that will come out to vote on an election. The more people that come out, the more people that participate, the stronger our democracy will be. I know that, you know, looking at some of our previous elections, sometimes weather might make it difficult for people on that one day to come out to vote. So the more opportunity they're given to express their thoughts and, you know, give their support to who they believe should be leading them, the better. So I hope that the council, if it's not this meeting, at the next meeting, will be able to take this on and make an affirmative vote. I would ask for us to do the maximum, which would be the full 15 days, and to support that with the cost. Since we are since this is going to be delayed until the next meeting, I think it'd be great if the city clerk provides an idea of what the cost would be. That way, we and the administration are aware of the financial support that we would have to give.
Madam
Thank
Clerk?
you, Council President.
You're welcome. Did you want to comment at all, Madam Clerk, on this, or?
Sure. At the subcommittee level, I did provide costs, and basically we talked about how it was $15,000 last year in 2022 to run the early voting. 15,000, yeah. So basically that was for 1 week at the primary and 2 weeks at the general election for the 3 weeks total. So averaging us about $5,000 a week to run the special election. So just that's what it costs. So it's about $5,000. So if you wanted to do the full 4 weeks, probably about $20,000. I don't know if you want that more formally in writing, but we did provide that at the subcommittee.
Before I recognize Councilor Rodriguez, is there any other councilors who wish to speak on this matter? Councilor Levy.
Thank you, Council President. When is the last day that we have to take the decision, the final decision?
Council, technically we have like late July or early August. We have 45 days before the election under the law, but the state is asking for the information sooner. They want to, they put out documentation, pamphlets and stuff like that. They want to have it in their paperwork. So we would have a blank line next to our community if we don't submit it sooner. We can, under the law, we're allowed to submit it late. But it's better if we could submit it sooner. They're asking for it now.
So can we hear the information for the next meeting?
Sure.
So regarding the cost for the mailing and the cost for to have the early voting?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, anything else before we kill this thing for a little bit? All right, Councilor Rodriguez? There's always the question of the proper charter objection. I'm going to try to do this the right way, and I will allow you, it will be in order. Is the city attorney still here? Did we lose him? We're going to allow you to, I just want to make sure we start. City attorney, for a charter objection, does there have to be a reason why we're charter objecting? Should that be part of the motion, because we're about to entertain that? Remind us again the proper procedure on a charter objection.
information so that they could research it or take a look or have some information. So what is exactly the charter objection?
Do you have that information, Counselor? Oh, okay, all right. Based on that, the charter object, I mean, if you come up with the charter, we're gonna have to vote here in a second. You can make a motion to table if you needed more time to do that. I mean, that would be in order if that's what you would want to do because you need to get more information. I see, while you're looking at that, I see Senator Payano has his hand up. So, Senator Payano.
Thank you, Council President. So, Council President, I think that I hear what the interim city attorney is saying. Having looked at that for the past 5 years and having used the charter objections the way that we've been using it and seen it being used that way since I was a youth, I think that has not been the intention at least for the last decade, for us to. There's nothing in the charter that says that a charter objection is used in that particular way. That might be an approach that the interim city attorney is advising us to do, but that is not, I believe, our rule. Now, I've used charter objections at times when other people, when Councilor Rodriguez has had an item that he's wanted to move forward, and I think that it would be, as a colleague, I would have to support his efforts in being able to do a charter objection, because even though I feel like we should vote on this today. I really do not believe that that's not how we've done it. I can't see anything that's written that says it should be that way. If we want to come to terms to rewrite the way that we write our rules, to figure out a new way of doing charter objections, then we should meet as a council and have that conversation. I do not, the city attorney can give us advice and can give us his interpretation on what he believes the rules are, but that is advice. That is not, necessarily how we wish to take on those, how we wish to interpret those rules. Unless, there's a memo out there that details exactly sort of like, how he came to this decision, or there's some language within our rules that exactly state this, which I have not seen. I really believe, Council President, that we should allow Councilor Rodriguez to state his charter objection. Again, I think this is an issue that I deeply care about. I think this is an issue that to me is a no-brainer, and we should vote on this today. However, I have done charter objections before, and I think we should continue to allow the practice. Thank you, Council President, for the time.
You are very welcome. I see that the attorney is risen, and perhaps we would like to either add to the comments or clarify. City Attorney?
Sure. I understand what the councilor is saying. Here's my example. The council is using, and I'm not saying any particular, is using a charter exemption for a continuance. That's not a charter objection. Charter objection is not just to get a matter continued to the next meeting. That's a continuance. A charter objection is that you have violated some rule in the charter, and therefore we cannot hear that matter. So tell me what that rule is so we can research it and correct it if it's wrong. That's my interpretation of the charter objection. The charter objection is that a member of this board is stating that whatever is happening is in violation of the charter and should tell us why. It's not, it has been used as strictly a method of delaying a vote, but that's not a charter objection. And that's my interpretation. As I always say when giving you my interpretation, my job is to give you what I think is legal and not legal. You can do whatever you want. I can show you where the fire is. If you want to step into the fire, I can't stop you, but that's my interpretation of what the charter objection is.
Council President?
I do see that Councilor Rodriguez wishes the floor, Councilor.
Thank you so much. I would like the city clerk to read the charter objection section, which is the 3.8, section C.
So also, you probably want to look at the rules, also do those directly with charter objections. But 3.8C of the charter reads, charter objection. On the first occasion that a question of adoption of any measure is put to the city council, except an emergency measure, in accordance with section 3.7B, if a single member objects to the taking of a vote, the vote shall be postponed until the next meeting in the city council, regular or special. If, when the matter is next put to the council for a vote, 4 or more members object to the taking of the vote, the matter shall be postponed for not less than an additional 5 days. This procedure shall not be used more than once for any measure, notwithstanding any amendments to the original measure.
Mr. President, through you? Yes, sir. I think it's crystal clear as of what it is. It's not specifying that I should say something in regard to the charter. It's not specifying, and I disagree with what our attorney just said. It's not specifying on the reading here specifically on this section of the charter of what it is for. It's an objection of a vote. So that's exactly what I'm doing here today. You have used it in your 14 years here and have never stated the matter. Why you want to make me do so now? I think that sample start from the house. And you are the one with the gavel today. And you should follow your own advice of how you have done it before. How we have done it in the past. And according to this section here that the clerk just read it is crystal clear. With that said, Council President, I'm going to ask you again to charter object this vote.
I'm not going to accept it at this point. Councilor Levy.
And I'm going to stay as of why I'm objecting this vote.
Councilor Levy wants to speak. I'm going to give our colleague a courtesy to speak. Councilor Levy. Councilor Levy has the floor. I'm not recognizing you until Councilor Levy finishes saying what she wishes to say. Councilor Levy.
Thank you. Yes, you can have the floor. It's just only to say that Councilor Payano has his hand up. Please.
Council President, I'm objecting to this vote based on the section 3.7 of the charter that I actually discussed before as of why this meeting is being conducted on a matter that, on my end, is in a violation of the city charter. That section has been stated before, and that's the reason as of why I'm doing it. The reason is because I don't want to jeopardize this vote and a technicality.
The duly noted, the clerk will include that in her notes that you have an objection to the vote, and that will be duly noted in the minutes. I see that Councilor Payano does have his hand up. Councilor Payano.
Thank you, Council President. So I would like to read, so, you know, the clerk read the charter. As the clerk mentioned, Rule 12C also talks about this. Rule 12 says, on the first charter objection, on the first occasion that the question of adoption of any measure is put to the City Council, accepting an emergency measure in accordance with Section 3.8B, if a single member objects to the taking of the vote shall be postponed until the next meeting of the City Council, regular or special. If when the matter is next put to the Council for a vote, 4 or more members object to the taking of the vote, the member shall be postponed for not less than an additional 5 days. This procedure shall not be used more than once for any measure, notwithstanding any amendment to the original measure. Now, I feel like I was very polite when the city attorney first brought up his opinion. Now I will say that I believe that his opinion is completely incorrect. His opinion is what he believes should occur. There is nothing in our rules, neither in our charter or our rules, that states that that procedure should be done the way the city attorney would like for it to be done. And what I I would ask of the city attorney is that if he believes that those rules should be done in that way, that he submit through the mayor or through a counselor an amendment to our rules. But at the moment, our rules do not state that. Adding that to it would be an adding to our rules. I heartfully believe that we should stick to the reading of the rules. Let's not add anything to it. And at the moment, both our charter and our rules, as put by our ordinances, state that all you need is a single member to object. It does not say that a single member should object and state what part of the charter it disagrees and all that other mess that was spoken about. It says a single member objects, and let's just focus on that. And I think, again, it's not just a tradition. We've been following it for several decades. If we wish to change it, maybe it makes sense to change it. Let's submit an ordinance change so we can have a debate on our rules and change it up. Thank you, Council President.
You are so welcome, Senator. So I think at this point, here's what the ruling of the chair was going to be, as I try to divine some sort of inspiration to try to do the right thing. So my sense is this, is that this evening, the councilors are correct. For the longest time, we have been doing something like what we're about to do here this evening, which is a charter object for any reason. We don't give a reason, we just do it. I know that councilor's correct. I have done the same thing in the past, but I recently, within a certain amount of time, probably within the last year, learned more about the charter objection since the last time a charter objection was ruled, and I really wanted to dig into it. What I think we need to do is this. I'm going to recognize the charter objection because this is a fantastic debate what we're having. What is it our rules say? What does our charter say? What's the purpose of this? We should have that discussion. Tonight we've gone a little further than I kind of want to, but we should have that discussion. But for the purposes tonight, the charter objection will be accepted as is, and then we're going to put on the city council agenda the charter objection so that we can have a more robust discussion about what is it that we're trying to accomplish with the charter objection, why is that rule there, and then we could have a discussion among ourselves as we have both in the charter, which hasn't been sent down from the mayor's office yet, and our rules, so that we can make a sense. So at this point, the charter objection has been raised. The chair recognizes the charter objection, and for this purpose, this discussion is complete for this evening and will be able to be discussed at our next full city council meeting. I think that's it for the public hearings in that section. I do want to take something out of tabled matters, but I'm looking at Councilor Infante.
Thank you. I also want to take something out of table matters, and I believe it's not, I would have to make a motion to take item 2322 out of order. Tabled, yeah. So the motion is to take item 2322 out of order.
There's a motion to take document 2322 out of order, and seconded by Councilor Del Rosario. Discussion. See none. Clerk, this is on 2321. I'll ask that you please call the roll. And this is just so, Councilor Piano, for your benefit, 2322 is establishing a 3-member ad hoc committee to study and review translation services during city council meetings. Clerk, please call the roll to take it out of order.
Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Councilor Dela Cruz, noted as absent. Councilor Payano.
Yes.
Councilor Councilor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Infante.
Yes.
Vice President Estela Reyes is noted as absent. Councilor LaPlante.
Yes.
Okay, my next,
Councilor Infante.
thank you. I would like to make a motion to untable item 2322. It's already on table.
No, isn't he
I
the
think,
motion
I
to take
thought
it
I
off the table and
moved it out of order. That on tables it too? Sometimes you guys do too, I'm sorry, both motions. Okay.
We interpreted, frankly, that was a motion to take it off the table and
So-
out of order. Essentially
Okay.
what you're looking to do.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
out of order and off the table is how
Yeah.
the chair, if there's any objections, now's the time to be heard from any member of the council. Not seeing any objections, that's how we heard it, and that's what we're going to go with. So now, Counselor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Councilors, the ad hoc committee to study and review translation services during council meetings have met 3 times, one being prior to me joining the council and twice after. And we actually do have a company here with us tonight. We felt that it was important to have the company in front of us to give the councilors an opportunity to ask questions and raise any concerns you may have. Tonight, we have Robinson Mosque from Randolph Dominguez and Wendy Michelle Rubio that will be discussing this item further for us.
And give us your name, sir.
Yes, good evening, councilors. Mr. President, my name is Robinson Mosquera, and I'm here representing Excel Linguistics.
Did you want to give a presentation, Counselor? How do you want to proceed best on this?
Can you give us an overview of what the company offers and provide the rest of the councilors an insight of your advice to us, to the ad hoc committee, of what you believe is needed for our meetings and, yeah.
Okay. Basically, the translation and interpretation being verbal, translation being written, is a way of helping people from different languages communicate. Most what I have seen in this kind of meeting is a simultaneous interpretation, meaning as you're speaking, I'm here behind with a mic, and I'm interpreting to Spanish and to whatever other language is. And members in the audience that need that will have a receiver. I brought some equipment if you would like me to show you. But basically, that's the, so this is a receiver. People who need the interpretation will put it, they'll see it on the audience, and they will have it here. All that they have to do is turn it on and off and adjust the volume. And this here is a transmitter. The interpreter puts it on. Here they speak, and that's how they hear. So it's totally transparent to you, to the audience. You're not interrupting any conversation. And basically, the interpretation is about 3 or 4 seconds behind. So it's almost the same amount of time. In comparison to somebody who stands here, said something, the interpreter says it, and comes back here, which will take a lot longer time to do the presentation or carry on the discussion. Interpretation can be done in person. The interpreter is here, and you folks are here. Can be done remotely, like you are seeing in Zoom, or it can be done in a hybrid. Either way, the goal is to make sure that the interpretation is exact, whatever is being said is conveyed, is clear. You have to contextualize it because of the languages, and that is accurate. That's done by a professional interpreter. The job is totally a mental job. It's focus, it's concentration. I am hearing what you're saying. I am interpreting into Spanish or whatever language, and at the same time I'm speaking and hearing still what you're saying. So it is a really work of concentration and focus. That taxes the brain a lot, and you get tired. When the interpreters start getting tired, it becomes a little bit slower, the concepts don't come, and we don't want to miss anything that is being said. So in cases where the session is a little bit longer, 2 interpreters come. So they work in tandem to do that. And that's as far as the interpretation. What I've seen again here is a mix of different things that can be done. And ideally, the user tries different options and determine what's more practical for you. It really can be one or the other, it can be a mix. And that's what our company does. We work with you guys to understand what your needs are, not only the present but the future needs, and be able to put together a structure that enables that to happen. We also provide services like written translation when documents or notices or things have to be done. It is a service that do that. And that is, in essence, the nature of the service that we provide.
Councilor Infante, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Mosqueda, can you also provide information to the council on other organizations or communities that this company has worked with for translation services?
Yes. We are a Massachusetts approved vendor, state vendor. So we have worked with the state, particularly the EEC, Department of Early Education. We have worked with a number of organizations that are political grassroots. And here in Lawrence, we were the provider, the exclusive provider when Columbia Gas, when this explosion happened. We provided the support that they needed fully. Initially, it was a process of about maybe month and a half, 2 months. And when it became manageable, then we trained some folks to do the core services. We work with Lawrence Community Action. We have worked with Common Ground. I'm sorry, the name escapes. But we've been here for quite a while. We work also with a training company that provides educations for PCAs, personal care attendants, which in Lawrence there's a good number. And they are being trained in all sorts of topics. And we deliver training sessions, interpret for many years in a number of things. So we are very familiar with the community here in Lawrence and what the needs of the audience are. If I can add something that this is that technology has really helped is to engage the audience. A lot of people couldn't or didn't know that this was available, so they disconnected. And a lot of people have things to say that you want to know and things that you need to educate them. So this kind of technology is pretty neat, what it does for engaging and not only educating, but engaging members of the community. That is something that is pretty neat. The other thing which I know that Lawrence doesn't have a great variety, ethnic variety, a significant ethnic variety other than Spanish, is that when you have two languages, that's extremely powerful, extremely powerful. One presenter, couple of languages. We also provide sign language interpretation, different altogether. But that's part of the thing. So our goal is really to support your language needs, whatever they are. We work to make sure that in the present as well as long term, you are addressing that.
Thank you, Council President. The last thing that I'm going to say, and Councilor Reyes and Council President, if I'm wrong on any of this, please correct me, because my memory is a little bit jogged, but I believe this ad hoc committee is looking to provide translation services for our general meetings. This company also provides translation services through Zoom, but at this time, I believe the ad hoc committee decided that it may not be needed depending on how we continue with Zoom. And I forget pricing. Do you remember pricing?
I don't remember the pricing right now, but we can.
Okay. I close. I'm all set. Thank you.
I think you're right, Councilor Infante. I think that's what the ad hoc committee did. And I'm going to relinquish the floor here a second to Councilor Rodriguez so we can ask more questions, and I'll add in. Councilor Rodriguez?
Council President, thank you. A quick question. When you you don't call it translation, right? You call it interpretation.
Correct. Interpretation is verbal.
Yeah.
Different skill altogether. That translation, which is written and a person is sitting in front of a computer struggling with the meaning of one word.
Gotcha. So once you're providing these services to a body of 9 and somebody on the stage, 10 people, do you mention that person's name so the public that are receiving your voice, it's getting who's talking? Like perhaps Councilor Rodriguez is talking, or Councilor Rodriguez said. How you do that? Can you give me a quick example?
The professional way of handling that is that the interpreter should not add or take away or put his opinion or her opinion at all. So the way that we work with you, if that's what you want to do, then the person who speaks said something, and we repeat exactly what you want to do. I don't want to call you Councilor Bernal versus Rodriguez that you are. So
Essentially, it will be like, if I want the people to know that I'm speaking, I will say Councilor Rodriguez, and you guys said Councilor Rodriguez.
And it's very normal to do that, especially because if you're transmitting something like that, maybe you don't see the other person. Here in the audience, somebody will see you and will stand up and say something, oh, this is that person. But in terms of professional standard, that's what you do. And we do not take away or put our opinion. It's just being transparent, helping two people as if they were speaking on the same language.
There is a lot of terminologies that are very familiar with the city council at any level. Perhaps we have city council rules. You are a witness today that we talk about a lot of things about the charter. Usually that doesn't happen very often. But those technicalities, do you guys study that first before ahead of time?
Yeah.
To be able to transmit the proper terminology, names, and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And as a company, we tend to develop a team of interpreters because of what you just said. You guys have a lot of particular unique knowledge that have acquired over the years. So generally, we choose people that have that background. We also ask you that you provide any information that will support, because we prepare before coming here. And the value of building a team is that becomes a virtual team member. It's somebody else who has the understanding, and you can be fluid in conversing and explaining it. But yes, preparation is key and on part of the interpreter.
Do you perhaps provide transmission to English?
Either way, when somebody, and this is very exciting work. You have a Spanish audience mix. Some of you speak Spanish, some not. And if everybody has the equipment, the interpreter, when you speak in Spanish, the interpreter can switch to speak in English. Somebody speaks in English, we switch to Spanish. So it's really trying to make the conversation simultaneous, as if, they both speak the language. Yes, and we also, and to add to your question, pretty much any language that you need. I know that most organizations have a limited need. It's only 2-3 languages that you use often. It's not unlimited, so that's not what we do. We identified what you need, and we assemble a team, develop a team for that
And my
purpose.
question also, it's on regard to somebody coming to do apps you're a witness of 3 people doing public participation today. We have a large population of non-English speakers that would like to express what they feel as well. But when they come over, usually what we do is like, hey, there is anybody speak Spanish around or English?
Right.
Can translate for them. So when it comes to translation or transmission, or how you guys call it, interpretation, yes. New terms for me. Interpretation. So do you guys sit down, stand up right next to the podium and do that interpretation at the podium as well, at that moment?
So the benefit of being simultaneous is that I don't have to be in the front. I can be at the back of the room as long as I can hear and interpret to what you said. And only 3 or 4 people that have the receiver hear it.
Then is like, when we have public participation, that person is expressing an opinion that would like the public that is not here to hear. You know what I mean?
You mean
So-
remotely?
Yeah, so essentially,
it's-
like what you're saying today, the entire city, hopefully,
Can hear it.
can hear it.
Yes.
So if you translate or if you do what you guys do, interpretate. If you interpret to a couple of people that have the equipment,
Yes.
only those couple of people are going to be able to
Correct.
hear, but not anybody
Because
out
of the
there.
people in the city. When we talk about hybrid, we can have an in-person and an online at the same time. So folks that are in their homes, they will select, I want to hear in Spanish, or I want to hear in English. And whatever they choose is whatever they will hear. So yes, the answer to your question is in person here, people will have the equipment, and remotely connecting technology, people on their homes will be able to choose the language and hear that language, and vice versa.
So this is we get into that point, but it's not quite yet. I'm gonna kind of like give you a good example. Please translate for me in English to English. Lo que estoy tratando de decir
What I'm trying to say
es que si las personas que tienen una opinión en español,
is that the person that has an opinion speaks Spanish.
ellos vienen aquí y hablan acerca de, por ejemplo, los hoyos en las calles.
Yeah, they will come here and they will speak, for example, about the holes on the streets.
Si esa es la problemática que ellos quieren expresar,
And if that is the topic that they wanted to express,
el público allá afuera va a escuchar su problemática.
yeah, people outside will be able to hear his perspective on the issue.
So this exercise that we just did, everybody up there here
Would hear it.
and understood what we're talking about. And basically, without having somebody on the podium doing the translations in between the two, people are not gonna be able to, you know what I mean? So to understand. So
I
essentially,
understand.
that person there, other than also with the transmission
Right.
for the public present, we're also gonna be needed
Yeah.
at some point.
I understand the confusion that you have. Like we just did here, will take twice the amount of time. You spoke, I translated, you spoke, it will take a lot of time. When I have the equipment, I am on the background speaking at the same time, and through the technology, people will hear it in whatever language, Spanish or English. And when somebody from the city says, I want to say something, and Mr. President says, okay, you have a voice, then I will interpret those things here. That's technology.
There's one more thing that we need to speak, but go ahead.
Councilor Reyes.
Point of clarification.
Interpretation quickly.
Okay.
It's not only about the equipment. You can stand up and support the participation.
If that's what you would want me to do, yes, I will stand here, either taking turns or speaking at the same time that they're doing there. That may be a little bit confusing, but to us, it really doesn't make a difference. You will accomplish what you need.
So, and essentially, that's going to be only with the person that need the translation, because most of
Correct.
the information is going to be transmitted in English, and
Correct.
that's basically how people get it. But there is information in Spanish that people not getting it up there, and we need to use somebody from the public to
Yes.
translate for them, because even though 8 of us speak another language, we're not allowed to translate. But I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah. So let me give you a quick example of today. You folks have been all speaking in English. I would be on the background interpreting what you said into Spanish. Everybody here would have the headset and it will hear, and everybody through Zoom will hear what you're saying in English, but they will hear in Spanish at the same time. If somebody here wants to say something, they'll get up, speak in English or in Spanish, I will translate, interpret it. Or if somebody in the city wants to say something and it is allowed to speak it, then they will hear it.
But the thing is like what we're missing is that we're transmitting through the TV. That's the thing.
That is not a problem. That's technology, and we will help you with that. That is not part of our job is to take away the headache of the technology, but it's at a pretty neat point. The kind of things that we can do today, it's pretty efficient,
Thank
pretty
you.
effective.
Anybody else wish to, councilors, is there any other vendors here this evening, or is this the only vendor tonight? We have another vendor that's here this evening. I have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask, so it's in the public, so we all can hear. Of course, everything is a little bit is by money and availability. Talk about the cost and the limitations of the person who's doing the, what's the right word, interpretation.
Okay. In terms of the cost and in terms of the programs that we develop specifically, that is something that I will not like to discuss in public. However, I will be more than happy to sit down with whoever you choose and go through the specifics of whatever service and whatever cost is associated. It is efficient in how do you do it because of the number of people that you're reaching, the audiences that you're doing it. And as I said, the state, we're a certified vendor with them, following all of their guidelines, and it's totally competitive.
It's an interesting response, and I'm not debating that, but I do want to get counsel on this. Mr. Hooten, are you still with us? So the question here, thank you. The question that's before us is I asked a question about what the rates are, and for the reasons that were just expressed, he did not want to volunteer that in this public setting and wishes to talk to us apparently privately and let us know what those are. When we're dealing with a public situation like this, should be the expectation of the public dollars that we're about to spend? Is this, I don't know, I'm about procurement, and I'm a little, I think maybe all of us need a little guidance on how to approach that answer, which is, what's the price, public dollars? Do we have private conversations, or is this something he has to be forthcoming about in a public setting?
It's actually going to be very different depending on what you want. Depends on the amount and what you're required to do, because if it's under $10,000, you need to get 3 bids. If it's over $10,000, you're going to have to go up for an RFP. So those amount of monies, again, just because he's standing here doesn't mean that he's the man that's going to get the job. So obviously at that point it becomes public knowledge, but until that point, I mean, you may negotiate some things, and the price may change. He may tell you, now I charge $100 an hour or whatever, and when you ask for what services and what nights, it may change. But for the most part, no, at this point, you don't have to know the numbers, but you do have to follow procurement law when you're deciding on who and for what services. And again, the degree depends on, as the money goes up, the requirements get stronger.
If I may add something, the way that it is handled generally is you guys will determine a budget. And against that budget, things will be drawn. And how do you handle that is just up to you. But that's how it is. It's a budget that is allocated for the year or for whatever periods you have. And
I go to a car dealership and buy a car, I don't say I got $40,000, what can you get me, or $20,000? I want to hear from the person, what is this car going to cost before I start negotiating against myself. So I feel personally a little awkward about saying, this is our budget, how are you going to make this fit? It just seems to me, and maybe I'm old school or maybe I'm misreading this thing, but help me get some comfort in that point.
Again, I think probably the word budget isn't correct, but the word is, what do you want for services? How much? How many? And then it is up until, you can always do up until a certain amount. That this is what we want for meetings. Do we want to do permanently? Do we want to see if we want to use you on a temporary basis? 1 month, 2 month, 3 months, so we have like a $5,000 budget. But you agree on the amount that you're using. The budget isn't, as you would say, for one item. Your budget is how many times, once we reach, there was a lot of contracts where you say, once we reach that $5,000, we don't have any more money. You have to stop work at that point. So I think it's a misuse of terms. I think at this point, it's all procurement, and I think that, again, you have to be more specific. What are the services you want? Put it out for bid, or depending on the amount, where are you going to use it? I mean, it may not just be for use of the city council. You may need these services for other matters within the city.
And it is not a matter of a secret. You guys will have full access to that information. I just don't feel that this is the environment to discuss pricing, which is a competitive issue, and offerings and services that we offer, that we bring, that are our differentiator in the marketplace.
What are your limitations, what are the requirements as far as timing? Remember, I forget which vendor it was that said you have a minimum of X number of hours or a maximum. At a certain point, there was a transfer of individuals. Can you
Correct.
talk? Can you just briefly address that?
Yes, generally, depending on the individual, somebody can go maybe 30, 35 minutes sharp, and that may need a switch. Some interpreters can go an hour and 15 minutes, and still be sharp. It's a matter of how your brain is being used and taxed, and the needs are different. So we try to adjust within that, but most typically an hour. What is the length of average meeting that you guys have?
I'm just for argument's sake, I'm gonna throw 10 o'clock out there, just as and it goes up and down from there, but we'll say 3 hours.
Okay, that is a time that definitely will need 2 people. One person won't be able to manage, and I can tell you that I can do it, but the quality won't be there, and you don't want to misinterpret or misinformation.
So we have as much as you want, but one of the things that the ad hoc committee was discussing was, that if there was the ability to read the agenda and understanding what might come over will determine how much services we will need, depending on the meeting. And so there might be a meeting that we would have an hour worth of stuff. If we know there's something that's going to provide a lot of community engagement, for example, with non-English speakers, then we could probably front load something to maximize our dollars so that we can deal with those things early on. And I think that's part of the discussion that the ad hoc committee had. But was there a minimum of time? If somebody walks in the door and we're done in we're done in 30 minutes, hypothetically.
Yeah.
Are we paying for 2 hours worth of their time or an hour? Is there a minimum time?
In the industry, generally 2 hours is a minimum. That's the industry standard for in-person sessions. We work with you folks to make sure that we understand your needs and can help you maximize your dollars. And that can be done in a number of ways. That's part of how we bring value to you besides the interpretation.
Anything else? So stick around. I think that we're going to want to, I mean, the members of the ad hoc committee will probably want to get more detail that we're going to share with our colleagues on pricing and that stuff, and we'll take your cues on how you want us to approach that after listening to the attorney. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. Is there any,
Yeah, we have Wendy and Michelle Rubio, and I just want to say I misread my notes here. I thought they were all from the same company, but different people, different companies. So the next person we have is Michelle Wendy Rubio.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wendy Rubio. Thank you for having me here today. I also want to thank you, Teresa Vega. She was the one that told me about this opportunity where you need a translator, interpreter, and also thank you, Selena, as well, for having me here. So I, per se, I don't work for a specific translating or interpretation organization, but I am a bilingual professional with over 20 years of experience as a translator, interpreter, working in human resources, handling employee relations matters, policies and procedures, public speaking, translating in both languages, English to Spanish, Spanish to English. I have a bachelor's in business administration with a focus in human resources. I have been working for a CAP agency, a nonprofit organization, as an HR business partner for almost 9 years. And some of my responsibilities are to translate and interpret on a regular basis to Spanish-speaking clients and employees, both verbally and in writing. I also was a translator and interpreter at a Christian congregation where I was translating and interpreting live for the pastor or any guest speakers that came in. And this was transmitted online via YouTube. What else? So yeah, that's in a nutshell the experience that I have to bring. I know that I believe Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez, you asked for like an example, so I'd be more than happy to do it either way, both languages, and put me to the test.
Be fair for the process, actually, because
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have the same amount of
Equity
opportunity.
and yeah,
Yes.
being fair is important.
Well, essentially, let's do this sample as just like I did it before. So, and I'm a person that come from my house to speak about a concern that I have in for the city of Lawrence, and I stand in the podium without actually having the opportunity to speak another language. So, with that said, I'm gonna say it in Spanish and you will translate in English. So, mi nombre es Giovanni Rodríguez.
My name is Giovanni Rodriguez.
Y soy un miembro de la comunidad que tiene una problemática.
I'm a member of the community and I have an issue.
Hoy estoy aquí presentando la problemática de los hoyos en las calles en la ciudad.
I am here today to present the issues of the potholes here in the city.
Para mí y mi familia, esto ha resultado un poquito difícil.
For me and my family, this has been very difficult
Por el hecho que nuestro vehículo ya se ha dañado varias veces.
due to the fact that our vehicle has been destroyed a few times.
Nosotros queremos que de una u otra forma la ciudad tome acción en esta situación.
We're hoping that one way or another, the city can take action on this matter.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. We could do it vice versa too. I don't know if that would apply, but just saying.
Good.
From English to Spanish, if we needed to translate for
And
them.
essentially, Council President, through you, the reason that we did this is because there is a lot of people that come over to the chambers, stand up on the podium, and we need to ask somebody from the public randomly to translate for that person, and a lot of interpretation is missing on there because we're just getting somebody there, because even though all 8 of us speak Spanish, we're not allowed to actually translate for the people.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Another thing that I wanted to add is that I grew up in Lawrence, so I'm very familiar, obviously, with the community. You know, there's a lot that comes with interpreting and translating. It's not just translating from one language to the next. It's also knowing, you know, the culture, knowing the audience, knowing the needs, and kind of meeting people where they're at. There's emotions. There's a lot of things to take into consideration when it comes to that. And again, I don't work for a specific company, but I'd be more than happy to, you know, speak further, see what I can offer you, or partner with, you know, sorry, I forgot your name, sir, but yeah.
So essentially, Council President, I'll proceed with the question that I previously asked.
I'm so sorry, Counselor, can you say that one more time?
I said that I would like to proceed with the question that I asked to her, so to make it fair.
Yeah, it's the same thing, that makes sense, sure.
So essentially, I was asking to see if a person that is in need of those interpretation, if you're capable or willing to stand up next to them and translate, and essentially do that for the people that is not necessarily here on Zoom, but on the TV that is watching us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I have experience in, more being like, you know, human contact. When I translated at the congregation, it had to be live right there. And, you know, you have to think quick and, you know, be effective, and pay a lot of attention, kind of like you were saying. You have to be very, very focused.
And the other question that I asked, it was in relation to how you will interpret it in case that with 9 people plus somebody speaking on the podium, different people talking one at a time. If you will do like that person's name prior, and that way people understand that, oh, Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez is speaking now.
Sure, yeah, I mean, I would adapt, I guess, to whatever your needs are. I mean, obviously, you know, at a congregation, Christian congregation setting, they have a specific need. Working in human resources for a nonprofit company, maybe, you know, things are differently, and then here for the city it would be different. So I would just, you know, adapt whatever makes the most sense.
And the last question was in regard to that we particularly have a specific language and terminologies that are very specific. As you were witness today, we use a couple of technicalities today.
Yeah.
And that's on our city charter, and we have rules that we also use frequently. So if you do some type of, you prepare yourself before you come over and read those rules and know, kind of like, you know, when we refer to those, like what to look for, or perhaps what those specific interpretations are from one language to another language.
Absolutely. I mean, working in human resources, there's a lot of policies and procedures and rules, and, you know, you have to keep in mind so many factors. So that's already something that I do naturally at my job per se. And also when it comes to biblical scriptures, I mean, scriptures can, you know, be a little bit complex too, you know, keep in mind the language and all that. So, I mean, I think having that background, and also, like I mentioned, growing up in Lawrence and, you know, being naturally fluent in both languages, effectively in both, it's an advantage that I have. The disadvantage I have is I don't have a company, I don't have the equipment. So, yeah, I have the soft skills and the experience, I just don't have the equipment. So if that's something that's needed, I would be willing, again, to partner with them. But if you need something else, again, I'd be more than happy to answer any other questions you might have.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
I'm looking at counselors first, not seeing that Could you come back? I'm inviting you back. Come on back. That's very good answer, so I understand why you would want to leave. You're leaving on a high note, and I get that.
I'm like, okay, fine.
No, that's all right. I just wanted my colleagues to have a chance to ask questions first. So you heard some of the earlier questions that I had. There's no equipment, I get that. That needs to be factored in. I think I heard you say that you may want a partner, and that might, the council make a determination of that, if that works for us. Maybe that will, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. So what I'm seeing here is that if in this scenario, in your scenario, this is what I would call the traditional thing, where someone comes up, says something in non-English, and then you would translate it for us in the old way, and then we would say something back, and then you would translate it in that person's ear, and that's how, this is the way we've been doing it, like, for a while. So that's what I'm sensing. This is the model, right, that you're doing? Okay, got it. Any kind of certifications? One of the things, and I kind of presumed, and wrongfully so, I should be asking the same question to the gentleman. My understanding is when things are translated officially, there needs to be an official, a translator for the written word, right? And we're talking here, where's my cheat sheet? We're talking about, not talking translation, and not the written word, but rather it's,
Yeah.
thank you, interpretation. It's going to take a little while for that to click in, interpretation. But I'm presuming that the same requirements must be satisfied for interpretation, I don't know, as for translation. So do you have whatever that certification is?
I don't know. I have, like I said, a bachelor's, and I think just the natural ability to do it, and I've had the opportunity to do it in public settings without, that haven't required it.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask, if you don't mind, the gentleman, could you come up again? That very same question regarding interpretation and certifications. What's required, and do you have that?
Yes, we do. And let me make one thing of clarification. We work complementary, but we're not the same. What happens if she has another commitment on the time of the meeting? What happens if she's sick? The equipment is only one of the aspects. So in most cases, I'm not the one who interprets. We bring a team or a fellow who's doing it. If we're going to do something hybrid, who's going to manage the technology? We provide that kind of support. So we really are not comparing apple to apple. When you talk to an individual, I love her. Where are you? Yes, she's very sharp. And we will surround part of the team with folks like that, that built on the knowledge base that you guys have. But yeah, so it's different.
Thank you, I appreciate it. My last question, I'm going to ask you the same question. We did talk about money, and I feel like compelled to throw that at you as well. So what's your response to the same question that I asked earlier?
When it comes to money, per se?
To funding, requirements, minimums, I want to ask you the very same questions.
It's tough. I'm on the same boat as him. Again, working in human resources is something that I don't like to say publicly. And again, it depends on your needs. Again, I don't have the certification, but I don't have a problem going through the process of obtaining one if that is what is required. So I wouldn't feel comfortable saying openly, this is the dollar amount, because I think every case will be differently. And then I would have to deliver. And
Do you have a minimum amount of time? Like I asked the same question, and do you have to be here? If the meeting starts at 7 and we're done at 7:30, God willing, we're not usually having it that quickly, but are you going to bill us for 2 hours or 3 hours, or are you going to bill us for 30 minutes?
to make it, fair and reasonable, worth my time, I would say a minimum of 2. It sounds very reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done with my questions. Are there any counselors? Okay. Nope. Is there a third here tonight?
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have we do have a third one, right? We have a third one. So we could maybe bring that third person in, and hopefully we'll have a chance to recess this evening and come back on the 21st and have that person come on the 21st. Maybe we can re-invite them. I think it's fair for the counselors to have a third voice, so we can really do some comparison. So, thank you, my colleagues, for spearheading this. Is there anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, just a motion to retable.
Motion to table. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Del Rosario. Roll call vote, please.
This is the motion to retable. Counselor Infante?
Yes.
Counselor Reyes?
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez? Counselor Payano?
Yes.
Counselor Dela Cruz noted as absent. Counselor Levy?
Yes.
Counselor Vice President is noted as absent. Council President LaPlante?
Yeah, yes. Lost my agenda. Yes, the chair votes yes. The motion to table passes. This motion is tabled. Is there anything, so let's go right to the next one, probably one of the bigger items of this evening. And thank you so much. You're willing to stick around if you want. You don't need to, but it's up to you. We're good for this evening. So the next is the Personnel Committee. Vice Chair of the Personnel Committee, would you please give your committee report for document number 15022, hiring of new city attorney? The chairman is here on video. Mr. Chairman?
Voted unanimously to send to the full council all 4 of the individuals that have applied for city attorney. I'd say that we sent it as a committee report, but from my conversations with the vice chair of personnel today, I'm being informed that one of the members has taken his application off. So I'd like to submit that as a committee report.
There's a motion to send document up as a committee report. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Del Rosario. Councilors, before we enter a discussion, I have some bit of a substantial news to offer. Right before the city council meeting, I received a phone call from one of the applicants, Charles Body. Mr. Body has asked that his name be withdrawn from consideration. So at this point, we are now left with 2 members. We are left with Mr. Corrigan and Mr. Hooton as our 2 finalists. So this evening's questions and interviews will be with those 2 gentlemen, with the other 2 having been withdrawn. So at this point, I don't know who we're going to, should I leave the floor to the chair or to the vice chair? Do you have something you want to add?
Do you have a motion to accept the committee report? We've been doing a voice vote on these because we have somebody participating remotely. We didn't do a voice vote on that, to accepting the committee report.
You know something? That's an excellent point. We need to have a,
Accept your committee report. So as part of the discussion on the committee report, do the actual interviews?
so we have a choice here, it makes no difference to me. We can actually have, do the interview now and then accept the committee report. Let's do this. Let's make this clean. There's a motion to accept the committee reports, and it's been properly seconded, correct? And we're just going to admit it, and then at the next, there's going to be a motion then to accept the 2 names and then begin the interviewing process. All in favor of, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on accepting the committee report.
Counselor Levy?
Yes.
Counselor Dela Cruz, noted as absent. Counselor Payano? Counselor Payano?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
This is for
To accept the committee report?
present.
Counselor Del Rosario?
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes?
Yes.
Counselor Infante?
Yes.
Counselor Vice President Reyes is noted as absent. President LaPlante?
Yes. So the committee report has been adopted. I'm looking for a motion right now to motion to begin on Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made. And seconded. Motion made by Councilor Infante, seconded by Councilor Del Rosario. And now discussion. We're going to, we have two candidates here. I'm going to look to the chair or the vice chair to begin the discussion, ask the questions, and kind of lead us through this. Senator Payano, do you wish to lead this, or would you like to have Councilor Infante, the vice chair, start off?
Council President, I am fine if the vice chair would like to take the lead.
Very good. Vice Chair Infante, do you wish to begin the questioning? Is there any questions you wish to ask either one of the two candidates or both? If not, we can open it up to the group. It's up to you.
I would like to start by asking both, and I would like to start with candidate Tim Houghton, as he is a new candidate. And the question is for both candidates. Hello. Good evening. Good evening. I would like to ask, take me through why you believe you're the right candidate for this position.
Well, basically, I would say because of the fact that, first of all, having done the job now for almost 7 months, I've grown into it. I really, when I first became working for the City of Lawrence, I came strictly as litigation attorney. That was my goal. I worked under a city attorney, and I couldn't have had a better city attorney under Raquel Ruano, and I learned a lot under her. But there's a lot, when you see how much work the city attorney does, you sometimes, as the second, step back and say, I don't know if I could ever do that, because she did it so well. When you're kind of forced in the fire, and I took over, I realized that it was a very exciting and good job. It's a very different job. When you're the first assistant, your life is planned. I know that in 3 weeks, I'm going on trial. I know in 2 weeks, I'm going to spend the week preparing for trial. I know what trials are coming up the next 2 years. I know what's going on. When you are the city attorney, I don't know what's happening tomorrow. I cannot tell you tomorrow at 9 o'clock what I'm doing unless it's a meeting, because it happens so quickly. You have to respond to so many different circumstances. It might be that there's a problem with personnel that you have to make a ruling. There might be a fact that there was an accident the night before and a police officer, and they need some information for you about that. It might be that there's a suspension. It could be, there's any number of things. So you really have to have a wide range of knowledge. And at first it seems pretty, scary, let's say, for lack of better words. But once you get into it, you realize how exciting it is. It's a very unique job. I don't think there's very many jobs that are like that. And it's a lot of jobs. It's not just, boring work. There's a lot of work where you help constituents. I mean, there's more often than not, I have people coming directly to the city attorney, and many times they don't understand what the city attorney is, and I've had more people ask me about their divorces that I have to tell them that that's not my job. I don't do it. Unless you're divorcing the city, I'm not really involved in that. So each day, and I think I've grown in the job, and I think I like the job, and I think I do it very well. And that's it. If you don't mind, I would like to kind of answer the question that I think that people have that nobody's asked, and I want to answer it. Some may say, well, why didn't you apply for the job in the beginning? And the answer to that is that I was very happy being first assistant, and I'm trying to be a very non-political person. I mean, I've been in the politics world. I was a selectman for 21 years. But I also know that certain people have their favorites. And when there were 2 candidates for the city attorney, I knew that there were certain people that were in favor of certain of them. And I didn't want to stand in that way. That's not my job. And the last thing you want to do is to oppose the person that may end up being your boss. It makes a very uncomfortable work situation. So what's happened since is that there was no consensus. So at that point, I felt that I wasn't stepping on anybody's toes. It was me on my own, and if you like me, that's fine. If you prefer someone else, that's fine too. But that's why I didn't apply in the beginning, because I really felt that there were people that may have had an inroads and let that play out, and I let that play out.
My second question to you, Mr. Houghton, is you just mentioned the political atmosphere as being, as current interim city attorney, or whomever is to get to this position. Can you walk us through how will you remain neutral and not fall into political pressure on either side, as this position will work with both the mayor's office and also the city council?
The best advice that Raquel ever gave me is the fact that my job is not to please anyone. My job is to give them the facts. And her statement, which I stole tonight, is, I tell you where the fire is. I can't tell you, don't go in it. If you want to step in the fire, step in the fire, but I'm going to always tell you where the fire is. And she was very good at that, and it taught me what you're supposed to do. But regardless, if you don't like my answer, I'm sorry you don't like my answer, but that's my answer. It can't change. I will help people wherever I can, as long as it's legally able to do something. You know, if you tell me this is the end goal, that's fine, but if you tell me this is what I want to do, much the same as if you say, hey, listen, we want to hire this person to do this job, and it's a $50,000 contract, and I have to tell you, you can't. It's just, it might be the nicest person in the world, might be the perfect for that position, but there are rules and regulations you have to follow. And that's my goal, is I'm the gatekeeper. I keep all parties, whether it's the city council or whether it's the mayor or anybody in the city. I give you what I believe the law says, and I give you what I think you can do. And if you can choose not to accept, I mean, we have examples of past administrations where you can choose to ignore what the advice is. You do it at your peril, and at some point somebody may get in trouble. But I can always say, not I told you so, but here it was my opinion, and it doesn't sway you. I mean, I understand. And the political pressure, I think people misunderstand what the political pressure is. It's not someone in politics saying, I want you to do this because I want you to do this. It's usually someone saying, I want you to do this because this will help somebody. This will help the community. This will help. I mean, that's your job. Your job is, hey, I have somebody there, they need help. Can we do this for that? And unfortunately, it's my job to say, you can't really, as a city. I mean, the classic example, and people may not like this, is that when you have a fire in the city, it's not the city's job to put them up in a hotel. It's not. That's not your job. Your job is to provide relief. But if you then say, I'm going to go to the local hotel and put them up, well, actually, you're violating procurement, because you may tell me, well, Tim, that's an emergency. And my response is, do you think a fire in Lawrence is an emergency? Do you think that it will ever happen again? It will happen again. So why not prepare today? Put it out to bid so that everybody has a chance to bid. Every hotel has a chance to bid. And so when that emergency comes up, it's not like we're placing someone in violating. We're saying, no, we've done our due diligence. We put it out to bid. This is the hotel that's giving us the best rate, because there's always going to be a problem. So when you say politics, it's not like, hey, help me this way. It's really like, for most people I deal with in the city, it's like, let's help somebody. How do we help them? And sometimes I have to say, you can't help them.
Thank you.
Did you have the same questions to the other candidate? You have the floor. I would imagine you would want to ask the same questions there.
Good evening, councilors. Nice to be back. Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. So I'm going to repeat myself, so forgive me. I know you've heard my spiel before, but I think I have some unique qualities that would be extremely beneficial to the city attorney's office. My experience is very broad. I not only have the experience from working here in the city attorney's office for a little over 3 years, but I have 25 years of private sector experience. Much of that experience working on the other side with municipalities, so dealing with town councils, city attorneys on various types of cases, litigation matters, zoning matters, real estate development, and so forth. Attorney Hooton is obviously experienced and has some very good skills to bring to the office. But what I think I bring really that is not very common is what I've demonstrated in my time here and in my private practice, which is an outside-the-box, innovative thinking. When I take on a case or any matter that's presented to me, I research the matter diligently. I never want to be caught in any case being less prepared than an opponent. And my experience here really demonstrates that. I've provided examples to the council in my resume of some of the cases that I handled when I was here with the city that demonstrate that innovative thinking, resolving problems that had been lingering here on the books for years, and taking on matters and solving the problems. That's really what I bring to the table. And I want to build the city attorney's office. I want this to be the best city attorney's office in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I think we have the potential really to do that. We've got some good people working here now. With my experience, my leadership, I think we could really make this a top-notch city attorney's office. One thing that I'd really like to do right off the bat is look to bringing in some younger attorneys or even perhaps law students as interns to try to cultivate and I want to specifically try to bring in local folks, people from Lawrence, because this is the type of job that it's the type of job that really, you don't see too many young people taking on these municipal attorney jobs. It's usually, some older people. But it's a great job, and I think, to bring in some of the younger folks, the local talent, to learn from the ground up, I think that would solve. I know that in many cases, in particular, Senator Payano has commented over time about this process that, the city council just isn't getting enough, local candidates, not getting enough Spanish-speaking attorneys to apply. I think what we need to do is we need to start from the ground up. We need to go to the law schools, the local law schools, and bring in interns. Really go out and push to bring in some young attorneys to kind of learn from experienced guys like myself and Attorney Hooton. So I have a plan. I think I'm uniquely qualified for the position. In terms of the political atmosphere, I've been around the block here. I understand how this works. I specifically, when the opportunity arose last year with Attorney Ruano's resignation, I specifically went into the process not asking anyone for a favor. I didn't approach any of my friends and colleagues on the city council. I didn't ask the mayor for any assistance. I wanted this process to be fair and objective, and I wanted to get the job only because I was the most qualified. I don't want to be in a position where I've received a favor from somebody, because that creates an ethical conflict that eventually is going to come to a head. And so and I second and echo what Attorney Hooton said. The job of the city attorney is not to make people happy. It's to provide legal advice, which sometimes people don't like to hear. But that is the job of the city attorney, to be level-headed when there's tension, conflict amongst the city council, perhaps with the mayor's office. The city attorney should be the person who's the one looking at it objectively and providing the advice to all the parties involved.
Thank you.
At this point, the chair would like to have a 2-minute recess. And we can come right back. Is there a motion for a 2-minute recess?
So moved.
Motion made and second. Roll call, please. And the chair thanks you.
Counselor Infante.
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Counselor Payano. Counselor Dela Cruz is noted as absent. Counselor Levy.
Yes.
Counselor Vice President is noted as absent. Counselor LaPlante.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Yes, we're coming out of recess. I would now like to get a motion to go, let's preempt this, to go past 10 o'clock. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Motion by Counselor Infante, seconded by Counselor Selena Reyes. Discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Present.
Counselor Payano.
Yes.
Counselor Maria de la Cruz is noted as absent. Counselor Levy.
Yes.
Counselor Vice President Estela Reyes is noted as absent. Council President LaPlante.
Yes, a motion to go past 10 is now approved. So we went the first counselor with the first round of questions. Is there any other counselors who at this point wish to ask questions? Counselor Rodriguez, did you want to split?
Yeah, of course, that's the way to. So my question will be more in regard to the, both of you experience as a first attorney. You, Attorney Hewen, are you the first attorney? Yes. Okay. So based on your experience as a former first attorney and working indirectly with labor laws, what do you think the city of Lawrence should have or should adopt to be able to reduce the amount of outside and Attorney Hugh, I hope that you catch the question because I didn't write.
Yes, Counselor, I think it's pretty straightforward. You know, at least the administration under which I worked here, the policy was basically the minute a labor matter came in the door, it went out the door. And during that period of time, I did handle quite a few cases, but the mayor during that administration was very adamant that anything that, you know, got to a certain level of contention or maybe dollar value just went out the door to an outside firm. That doesn't need to happen. There's no reason why the attorneys that work here in the city can't handle basic, you know, labor disputes. I do believe, and I've said this before when I've been before the council answering these questions, that I'm not ready to upset the current situation involving contract negotiations with the various unions, because I think Mr. Iannello does a great job with those, and I know he works with a specific law firm on those, and I think they've done a great job over the last several years in getting the collective bargaining agreements under control, much to the chagrin of some of the union members who don't like them very much. But I think he's done a great job, and that's his area of expertise. I would like to get a little bit more involved in that and help the process. But in terms of just basic day-to-day labor disputes, there's no reason whatsoever that the attorneys like myself and an assistant couldn't handle those. And when I was here, I was basically the point person for most of the initial calls. I used to get calls regularly from department heads, chief of the fire department. Whenever there was a question about something, I would get the phone call, I would answer the questions, I would provide the research, provide memorandum, give opinions, and again, I'm ready to take that on. So if that is the case, if you have a city attorney who's prepared and experienced enough to deal with those, that should really dramatically bring down the cost of outside counsel for labor matters, and which would leave really the focus of outside counsel, labor counsel, on contract negotiations, which only come up periodically. And so that's my philosophy on subject. I know this is one of your big points of contention with the city attorney's office, and I think I've been consistent with my opinion on this. You know, as long as the administration is on board, no reason why most labor disputes cannot be handled by the city attorney's office.
I just want to clarify one thing. The way that the office is set up, the first assistant is a litigation attorney, is not a labor attorney. So the labor attorney is actually would be the second assistant, and that would be labor counsel if you're looking. So what we have right now in the office is we have me, which is the acting first and acting city attorney, handling all matters. The vast majority of stuff that we send out, go ahead, I'm sorry. Sorry? Yes, first assistant. So I was the litigation attorney, so I would handle.
I just want to make sure that both of you were in the same position. And
Actually, Counselor, I was appointed as the second.
gotcha, I understand.
By Mayor Rivera, and as the second, the ordinance provides that the second shall also
Yeah.
serve.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of like, trying to develop a question that related to both of you and,
Yeah.
and your experience at the office, but go ahead.
Yeah, and obviously I mean, that's the clearest thing is that, I mean, for now going on 7 months, you can't run that office with one attorney. You need multiple attorneys. You know, when it ran efficiently, there were four or five, some of them part-time. I mean, part-time sometimes works great. So obviously, anybody that's coming into their job, their first job is to bring other attorneys in to stop from shipping out to outside counsel. Outside counsel does a great job, but we can do it cheaper if you do it inside. To be honest with you, when I was hired as first assistant, way back when, that was the pledge at that time, and we hired one attorney. It's not all that easy anymore. As Council has said, it's a very specific niche, doing the city work. This is probably a good thing. I know that people were saying like we should hire a young Hispanic attorney. Let me just tell you, they're hard to find. They are gold. They're getting jobs with criminal law firms. They're getting jobs with other law firms. They're making a lot more money. So it's not all that easy to attract to a city job. So I mean that would be the hard part, is to get people to work here, and not hard to get them to work here, but get people to work here that are good, that can do the job. And a lot of times, I believe he's right. You're probably going to have to bring in younger people and train them on what to do. But I mean, once people get in this profession, they like it because it is very interesting. But it's like anything. When you go to law school, you learn criminal law, you learn civil law. And very seldom did you ever learn municipal law. It just didn't. It seemed, like doing stock work or something. It just seemed like it was very small, and who would do that? But yeah, you're going to bring more lawyers on, and the more lawyers you bring on, conversely, it will be cheaper it is, because we dish out, I would guess, $1 million a year in legal fees.
And the question was in regard to before, the situation was not necessarily based on capacity. It was based more like, can we handle those cases?
Oh, we could definitely, the thing about the cases is they're not extraordinarily difficult, but what they are time consuming. So if you've only got one person, and one case is going to take up, for instance, it's unrelated, but I have a trial starting next week, okay, in the Superior Court. So I'm going to be out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which means nothing's getting done in the city attorney's office on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. If you have a call or you have something that needs to get done, it's not going to get done. So it's not that anything is beyond doing. I think the attorneys you have and the attorneys that are there, we're capable of doing that. If it's something very specific, maybe you need someone that's very specific. But No, the work isn't, it's the time that it takes to do the work. Most people don't realize how much prep work goes in. You know, I'm spending this whole week prepping for the trial, and next week I'll be doing the trial, but I'll spend more time this week than I will next week, because you, as he has said, you want to go in and be the smartest person in that room, know the facts better than anybody, and be prepared, and that's how you represent the city. Whether you win or you lose is really dependent on the facts, but how you present makes a big difference in maybe awards and what happens there.
Second question, my last, I think, will be in regard to, right now there is only one person, so we cannot work around that. We all know that. But when it comes to the future of the office, and assuming that we are capable and able to hire one or two more attorneys, what is going to be the role or your role as the head of the office in terms of handling the day-to-day operation on that office? Or do you think that you will be focused more on core issues?
No, if I'm so chosen as the city attorney, the court issues would be second. Which you are involved in the day-to-day operation, and your job is to, as you would say, hire people to do the other work, to manage the other people. But at the same time, you still keep certain trials. I mean, there's certain things you can do, because now I don't have to do 10 trials this year. If I have someone else doing 9, maybe I can do 1. So the job of the city attorney is more management, managing the day-to-day operations, making sure that if there's requests of the city council that they get answered, if there's requests of the mayor that they get done, and in the meantime keep all, if there's any litigation or any labor law issues, that they're all getting done during the course of the year. You know, we've been doing it for 7 months, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I was in somewhat of a similar position when I was here. I mean, I was at a point in time when I think Raquel had gone to part-time, Charles was sort of getting ready to leave, and so I know how Attorney Hooton feels. I mean, I felt like I was the only person in the office at that time. It's just, the work has to be done. I've managed a law firm. I was the managing partner for at one point in time, we had 7 attorneys, multiple paralegals and so forth. So I know how to run it. I believe in, I don't like to be too overbearing. I don't want to be a helicopter manager. I believe in hiring good quality people, training them, and then demanding performance. So we need to bring some young people in and get them up to speed very quickly. The city attorney would, you know, if I am lucky enough to be elected, I would be the one overseeing the office, but dealing with the most complex matters and delegating the simpler matters to the younger staff. And that's how any law firm operates, how any in-house corporate legal department would operate, and how any good city attorney or municipal attorney's office should operate. And again, my goal, if I'm so lucky to be chosen here, is to make this city attorney's office the best municipal law office in the Commonwealth of Mass. And I think we have the ability to do it.
Thank you, Council President.
Very good. Are there any other members? Councilor Levy.
Can you tell me a little bit about your conflict resolution skills?
Conflict resolution skills? Well, I like to think myself as a very even-keeled person. I am certified as a mediator from the court. When I was in private practice, I did take the necessary things to become a mediator. you know, conflict mediation is like anything. It's just getting the two parties together. What most people don't understand, especially about the court system, is the court system is not designed to have trials. I know that seems rather strange, but what it's designed to is to have everything settle. It's designed to have things, you know, come out evenly. If everything went to trial, nothing would ever get done. We would never hear things. So you learn as an attorney that there's always a middle ground. You can zealously represent your client, but at the same time realize what's the best interest. You know, I make that choice every day. In any case, there's a chance that you could win and there's a chance you could lose. But when you take the case, you also realize what's the danger to the city. If we really get hit on this case, is that a bad thing for the city? Is it something that we should settle, even if we feel like maybe we have a chance to win? So, and you know, I deal with a lot of people in the city hall. I deal with a lot of people in my life. I've dealt with people my whole career, and that's the skill you learn. You learn to keep an even temperament, take nothing personal, and you can get people together. I mean, they always say that the best resolution is when both parties walk away unhappy. Then that means they both gave a little, and you've probably done a good job.
So we have like criminal cases and civil cases, no? Civil and criminal.
Oh, no, I was saying that's what lawyers look at when they come out of law school. They don't. There's a lot of other. You can do tax law. You can do you know, blue sky law. That you can do any other kind of. But they're very kind of small. When the younger lawyers come out, they're looking at, you know, am I going to be doing divorces? Am I going to be doing criminal cases? Am I doing civil cases?
Can you tell me a little bit about personal accomplishment and also career accomplishment?
Well, I've been an attorney for, now it's 40 years. I was a selectman for 21 years. I taught law for 3 or 4 years. You know, it's been a long time, so I've done a lot of things. You know, I've had some cases. You know, to be honest with you, when you're a small town lawyer, you handle a lot of everything. You're never going to see me on, you know, as handling one of the big cases, because quite frankly, if you have a criminal case, you want to hire someone that does nothing but criminal. And if you are IBM, you're not hiring Tim Hooton. You're hiring some big firm in Boston with, you know, 600 lawyers. So what you deal with is, in my whole career, is you deal with people. And I've dealt with it on any number of things, whether it's civil, criminal, domestic, adoptions. I at one time was the attorney for the PCC, for protection of children. I did that for a while. That was a hard job, but you learned a lot. And I actually did it in here in Lawrence for about 3 years. And you know, it's an important job, an unfortunate job, taking away children from abusive parents. But yeah, I just, you know, I've always had, law has always been in my background. I wanted to be a lawyer when I came out of college. I went to law school. I've done probably every job there is. At one time, I used to say, and it's probably changed, that I've been in every court east of Worcester at least once, and I'd been in probably 50% west of Worcester, because my practice was wide-ranging. So I've done pretty much everything. So I just consider that an accomplishment, the fact that I've been here. You know, I loved coming to Lawrence because it was such a change. I had done enough work for people, and you know, because of my background in being being on the Middleton board for 21 years, I had liked that. I had learned about election law. I had learned about a lot of the things that's necessary to use in the city. So when I saw the opening coming up, I thought that was another adventure, another challenge, and I really did. When I took this job, it is a very exciting job. It's Lawrence is it's an exciting place. I mean, there's things that you will handle in Lawrence that you will handle nowhere else. And the people are very nice in Lawrence, and it's nice to help people, so. So is there any, one giant case that you're going to say, I'm going to say, oh, look, I was on that case? No, that's not the kind of person that I am, not the kind of person that I did. I helped a lot of people, but you're never going to see my picture on the front page of the paper.
What you haven't done like a fault in the city of Lawrence as a lawyer, that you can say, oh, yes, I did it, I won, I make it, so that gives you like that kind of satisfaction, inside for doing that.
Well, I mean, some of the things you think of aren't that big, but are great. I was able to, I think during the trash crisis, I was able to, negotiate us getting out of that contract and allow us to enter into a new contract for a new vendor. That could have been a long lawsuit that could have taken years. The city came out very well on that, so I was very proud of that. I've had a few trials that I've won for the city. I'm very proud of those. But mostly I'm proud of the day-to-day event. I think the city attorney's office helps a lot of people through what you do. You tell me to help an individual client, an individual voter in Lawrence, and we're able to help it, and help you, and you help them. I like that. I think that's part of job. I mean, we're here to help. I mean, that's why you people are city councilors. You're not, you're not working these late nights for the money. I know that for sure. It's because you can help people and you help your community, and I just think that, me being a part of that is what I'm most proud of.
Thank you.
Hi, Counselor. Good, how are you? Okay, you asked about conflict resolution. And what I would say to that, Counselor, is that in my view, being a lawyer, and for any client, is not so much about conflict resolution. It's about prevailing for your client, really. Sometimes, yes, as Attorney Hooton stated, sometimes settlement is the best case. But when a case comes in to the city attorney's office, if it's a litigation matter, someone is challenging the city on something, the job of the city attorney is to defend the city and to try to win the case. If it turns out that after some analysis that the case does not look very strong for the city, then that's when you might seek to settle with the other side to try to minimize the damage to the city. But the primary focus of the city attorney and attorneys in general is to represent the client and protect the client. And in this particular case, the client is the city of Lawrence. So I've handled hundreds of cases over my 25-year career. I've listed a few of them on my resume. Some of the cases, I don't even know where to begin, but let me give you a couple of cases that I feel most proud about. One is when I left the city in 2019, right after the Columbia Gas disaster, I joined with a colleague of mine, and we filed one of the 13 cases against Columbia Gas that were ultimately consolidated into a class action. And then I was involved in that case. We settled with Columbia Gas for $143 million. We provided well over $100 million to the residents and the businesses of the city of Lawrence. The claim process recently, I think, closed. I think the residents got a second round of checks recently, and so I'm proud of that case. Another case that I'm particularly proud of is a case that I handled privately, but actually the case started when I was with the city. Back in 2009, 2010, when the city was in very, very difficult financial condition. I don't know if anyone here was on the council at that point in time, but the city was basically bankrupt. You may recall that the city was taken over by the state fiscal overseer. But one of the things that the city did back then, which was insane, was they sold off a bunch of tax liens to a private company named Plymouth Park Tax Services. Plymouth Park ultimately got involved in some attorney general investigations. They decided to get out of the business. They sold the liens to another company called Ithaca Finance LLC. Ithaca Finance LLC foreclosed on many Lawrence homeowners, took the homes for very small amounts of tax. There were two cases that they took, two cases that they tried to take homes away from people for a very small amount of tax. One, I'm not going to mention any names, although it is a public matter, was a lovely woman who lives on Bunker Hill Street. There was a $3,000 tax bill that was left over when she bought the property. The attorney that did the closing didn't notice it, and so this tax bill lingered on the books for a while, and then eventually she got a letter in the mail from this law office saying, oh, by the way, our client owns your home. You need to essentially pack your bags and move out. That woman came into the city hall when she got that letter. I think initially went to the mayor's office. The mayor's office sent her over to the city attorney's office where I was at the time. I couldn't believe what had happened, that over a $3,000 tax bill, this woman had lost her home. And it was something that the city of Lawrence was involved in. So I tried to find another local attorney to take her case. I couldn't find anyone to take it. Eventually, I went and talked to the mayor. I said, you know, Mayor, I need to help this woman. I want your permission to be able to take this case privately. I'll do it on my own time. I'll take personal time if I have to go to court for her. Ultimately, I fought that case, and I saved that woman's home. And I did that for in a second case for a woman who lives on Bruce Street. Just prevailed in the land court a couple of months ago. The company tried to take her home over a $6,000 tax bill. I beat the company on that. That case is over. She's got her home back. Those are the types of cases that I love working on. And I would continue to take those cases from time to time, but of course, if I'm lucky enough to be appointed here, my focus would be on doing that kind of work for the city and the city constituents. So I think those cases best symbolize the kind of work that my law career is all about. And I'm very proud to have worked on those cases. And I could cite many more examples, but I don't want to bore you. Now, I don't know if I've answered all of the questions that you asked to Attorney Hooton, but I hope I've given you some good information.
Yes, you answered all of the questions practically
Okay,
on the way.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, councilors. Is there any other councilors who wish to speak tonight or ask any questions?
One last question.
Councilor Rodriguez?
To both of you, I would like to know, what is your, not skill, but both of you have that type of skill, but I would like you to speak on this matter, which is contract negotiations and to ensure that the city is safe in terms of different contracts. Or perhaps no contract negotiation, it's better off contract managements.
Okay. Like collective bargaining type or?
No, more like, nothing related to employees or laborers. It's more like, we have a trash company.
Oh, sure.
Or we have any type of contracts that sometime we kind of have copy and paste contracts
from
I
other
see.
cities and towns, and we ended up having contracts that are generic, but impossible to actually make it through. So that type of thing, so kind of like, reading those, thinking outside of the box, looking at the landscape of our community, and be able to rewrite those contract
Sure.
management,
Sure.
perhaps.
So, the municipal contract law is somewhat standardized. There's a lot of across-the-board, templates that are, Chapter 30B and procurement and so forth. But one thing I will mention to you that I think is very important and that is keeping up on developments in the law. I spend a lot of time reading appellate decisions and cases, Lawyers Weekly. I try to keep up as best I can, and I do it very well with developments in the law. And what I do typically is, if I see a case come in that has a very interesting decision that I think could impact some of my clients, I'll send that information to my clients. Say, hey, listen, whether it's let's say I represent a small business, and a decision comes down involving some employment issue that might affect that business, I'll send a memo out to all my small business clients saying, hey, listen, this is what the appeals court or the SJC just said. You need to let's focus on this. You may recall that we hired this person or we entered into this contract, but look what happened to this other company. Maybe we need to take a look at the contract that we did, so the next time we have a contract negotiation, we have in mind what happened here in this other case, so that we can implement strategies and perfect that contract again, as I mentioned to Councilor Levy, to protect the client. So I'm always conscious of trying to stay on top of developments in the law, so that no one is going to be more prepared than me when I'm dealing with somebody, whether it's a contract negotiation, whether it's a litigation matter. I'm always going to be 100% prepared. And to your point, Counselor, I think that, one of the first things that I would do when if I'm lucky enough to take office, is to review the contracts and see if there might be some room for development and improvement based upon, again, what I've researched. So that's something that's a day-to-day, everyday dynamic process, staying on top of developments, learning from cases involving other municipalities perhaps where they entered into a bad contract and got burned on it. Take that information to make sure that never happens to the city of Lawrence. So that's the way I operate in my law practice. That's what I would bring to the table here for the city of Lawrence.
What's interesting is that probably every work week I review between 10 and 20 contracts for the city. That's what we do. The good news is that the vast majority, I would say 80% of them, are contracts for services in which there is a protection built into the contract. So procurement has to sign off on it, department head has to sign off on it, the CAFO has to sign off on it, I have to sign off on it, and the mayor has to sign off on it. So there is often five sets of eyes to look on the vast majority of contracts that come through the city. So there is that protection, and I'm kind of the last in the eyes that look at it. Before it goes to the mayor's office, I take a look at it and I make sure that they've accomplished all of the facts, that it's legal, that they've got the correct sign-offs, that they've got the correct documents. Sometimes people are unhappy with me because I tend to nitpick a little bit, and there's certain corporate requirements that are needed from people that want to do business with the city, and all the T's have to be crossed and the I's dotted, and I sometimes send them back, and they're not very happy with that, but that's profit. So the other 20%, what happens is that I get involved before the contracts are made, because these are the more elaborate contracts in which it's something different. It's not where we're purchasing books for the schools. It's not, it's something out of the ordinary. And the people will give me the contract, and that's my job, to review the contract, make sure the city is protected, make sure that the money is correct, that there is a funding source, what's going on. I ask the details about it, and sometimes I rip apart. But in the end, everybody has to sign a city contract, because there's certain provisions we have in the city that must be in a contract. We won't sign a contract. A lot of people try to send us contract, the standard contract that unfortunately you probably would get for financing something or whatever. Well, the city won't sign those. We'll rip those apart, and we put our own contract. So the good part is, after all these years, and I'm not taking claim for this this kind of multi-level review, but there's a good multi-level review on all contracts to make sure that the city is protected, that the city gets what they contract for, and that they pay the price for it.
Follow-up question on that would be that over years, the city have developed contracts over other old contracts on top of very old contracts that ended up being in overprotection to the city, and that prevent people from participating on different things because of all those overprotections we have. And essentially, sometimes we need to think those twice, see what is the protections that the city needs, and avoid those overprotecting measurements that maybe don't allow people from participating, especially small companies.
Yeah.
So how we be able to look into those and see how we actually better serve the community by not necessarily having 10 extra steps of protections on contracts.
Sure. What you find is that the contracts now, and it's both state and federal, there are certain protections that don't allow, as you're probably, this is a classic example, when you sign up for your cable bill, you get the new yearly contract or your phone bill, you never look at it, you just keep signing with the same provider over and over again, and that's what they're counting on. And they may change the terms in it, but you keep, that can't happen in the city, because what happens is that when there is a renewal, there has to be a new bid depending on the amount, there has to be a new review. As far as, getting different people in, that's a job that happens from the city level. And what we've seen is that, and no disrespect to this board, but sometimes in an effort to do that, you pass things. For instance, there is on the board right now that all city contracts should have 25%, I believe it's 25% Laurentians employed. That's not enforceable. I mean, it's a nice idea, but you can put a priority for Laurentians in there, but you can't put a percentage, like you can't take an independent. So sometimes my job is also to make sure that what we put into the contracts is enforceable, that we can do that it does benefit the people of Lawrence. So that's what happens sometimes, is you can take the contracts and you can modify them to give the underserved and the smaller guy a chance at it, because for the most part, there are certain requirements. I mean, you have certain requirements. Let's take something simple as the towing contract. The contract requires that you have a yard in Lawrence, it requires that you have so many tow trucks, requires you this, and a smaller guy probably could not fulfill that contract because of the requirements. You as a board or the city or the Lawrence can decide that you would allow certain smaller contracts or people to fulfill that without having those requirements. So there is a way of doing it to get the smaller person. I'm assuming that's what you're saying is let's not just have the same people get the same contracts all the time. Let's try to spread the wealth around and get more people employed. And there are ways to do that.
Actually, are you willing to look into those type of loopholes and see how we can actually find the solutions for those?
Well, anytime I'm asked, again, when people People ask me to review a contract and say, much of you say, you know, hey, our contracts, we want to get this done. We want to have more people. We want to have local businesses involved. How can we do that? Yes, I give advice, and you can insert it. As with anything, I always tell, and again, I hate repeating myself, is I can give you advice, or I can give the mayor advice, and you can choose to take it or not take it. I can tell you, this is how to put it in a contract, and you can do it or not do it, depending on what you want to do. But yeah, I always research. People ask me, this is what we would like to do. We want to, you know, accomplish this. Can we do it? And I research it, and I come up with the answer. And if the answer is no, I give you the answer is no. But I'm always reviewing contracts for that purpose.
And then essentially, I'm sorry that I'm giving the follow-up again. I wanna hear something from you. And eventually, and the way that you describing this is like if somebody asks you. So I wanna see if proactively, you as a city attorney's head will look into those type of things that might protect the city and provide opportunity instead of just waiting for somebody to ask you for those.
The problem with that, no disrespect, is you're the boss. I'm not the boss. I don't decide what's good for the city of Lawrence. You ask me, I'll implement it, or the mayor will ask me. You are the people that are elected by the city of Lawrence. You know what the people want. You can tell me what they want. It shouldn't be up to me to decide what's best for the city of Lawrence. I'm not that person. You are that people. The mayor is that person. And that's, so I don't know what your priority is and the priority of Lawrence is, but if you tell me what the priority is, I'll work with it. But quite frankly, when you say, if I can come up with some wonderful ideas. You may not like them, or the city may not like them, and that's not my job. My job is to enforce them.
Yeah, I won't belabor the point. I think Attorney Hooton did hit a lot of things right on the head. You know, again, the job of the city attorney is not to loosen, you know, the grip on a contract, because you might be dealing with someone who's maybe not as savvy as some of the bigger contractors and service providers that we deal with. But by all means, I would be very happy to look into ways of you know, bringing in different contractors, different service providers, and you know, the contract is the contract. We have, you know, it's a good contract, but it's very favorable. Most of the contracts that we have here with the city are very favorable to the city. There's a lot of protection built in to contracts, and that's a good thing. But that said, it certainly shouldn't prevent people from seeking to work for the city, with the city. I mean, I have a contract with the city right now to do outside work on tax liens, and I have another contract because I've been doing title work on the rail trail right-of-way project. And the contract is very, very city-friendly. The city can terminate the contract at any point in time, and that's just something that, you know, as someone who wants to deal with the city has to understand that the laws are, and this isn't just, you know, across the board with Lawrence. This is statewide. The laws are such that you know, municipalities have to be very, very protected in contracts because of the laws pertaining to procurement and funding of a contract. So I think there are things that could be done to bring in, you know, smaller businesses, and I'd be happy to work with you on that. Absolutely.
Thank you. Senator Payano does have his hand up, and he hasn't spoken yet. Senator Payano.
So it's a question to the interim city attorney, but a statement that he made. Council President, can you ask him to come up?
He's present, Senator.
Thank you. So Attorney Hooton, you were speaking about the item, one of our ordinances which requires, I forget what the percentage is, it might be 25% of individuals that are being hired for jobs using city money, that they be Lawrence residents. So for example, we have a school being built. This is requiring that whatever the percentage is, are hired by our Lawrence folks. And you stated that we can't have a percentage, it has to be prioritized. So my question is, when you looked at that law, or when you looked at that ordinance, do you know if that ordinance was a home rule petition, or was it just an ordinance that was voted by the city council? Was that research done?
I believe that the percentage was in an ordinance for all contracts for city, the city puts out for construction. I believe it's in all construction contracts.
Advice on that particular ordinance, and I'm asking is, when you did your research on that, did you look to see if there was a home rule petition attached to that?
I didn't know. What I looked at was, as much as council has said, we spend our days looking at court cases and looking at rulings, and there was a clear court case and a clear ruling that said that a percentage that high is not enforceable. So all I basically looked at is, I looked at the case that came down from, I believe it was the SJC, that said that that's not enforceable, because it was regarding a particular contract, and I said, we can't enforce the percentage, we can, as written, because the case basically said we couldn't, and I gave advice on how we could do it to try to get the utmost people from Lawrence on those jobs.
General Law 30B, so that way they would be able to basically do the same thing that we are doing, or that ordinance was intended to do. I mean, my knowledge of it is that when this was pushed, I mean, this was like early 2000s, that there was a home rule petition that was attached to that, that would make, would amend Massachusetts, the 30B to, that the way it would affect Lawrence would be different than the way it would affect the entire state. That was my understanding. So I'm interested in learning. So you did this research on this particular item. How would that affect what Boston is doing? Because Boston, everything that we're reading in the paper, it looks like they're, Mayor Wu is pushing to change that same, that same type of law and actually expand on the percentage that they put in place.
Again, regardless of whether you got it through a home rule petition or it was done by the legislature, the courts invalidated the percentage. The courts can invalidate Massachusetts laws, they can invalidate federal laws, they can invalidate many laws. So it's not how you did it. I understand what you're saying. There's many things that are particular to Lawrence. It's the fact that the court said that a employment percentage of that magnitude is not enforceable. And it applies equally to everybody. It doesn't, the court cases don't say it applies to Stoneham, Raynham, Dorchester, and Quincy, but doesn't apply to Lawrence, Somerville, and wherever. When a court case comes down, as prior law, it applies to everybody. That's the thing about the rulings. It applies equally. So it wasn't something that I looked and said, do they really mean Lawrence? It's that the ruling said in all cases. And so that's how I interpreted it.
Talking about specifically just for us, I get that. I guess my what I'm trying to understand is how I'm sorry, there's an echo. What I'm trying to understand is that in your interpretation and in your advice, what we're hearing, what we're unable to do, yet from what we're reading in the news and from, talking to our colleagues in Boston, they're able to enforce a very similar policy that is actually has a higher percentage than what we're trying to apply. So as you were doing your research, were you able to look at what Boston was doing as well?
What Boston, to be honest with you, when I reviewed that case and reviewed that contract, it probably was well over a year ago. So I don't know what Boston is doing currently to try to change this. As I said, they just made the percentages that time invalid. Is there a workaround at this time? There probably is. So if I was asked to modify those contracts, I would definitely do the research and see, what is Boston doing and what are the courts saying now. But I was asked a very specific question about a very specific contract, and I gave my opinion.
Thank you, Attorney Hewen. I just have a statement. I don't have any further, sir. Thank you so much. Just a statement. I think in general, I think it's important that whoever becomes the city attorney, that they have this very important role. And one of the things that, as part of that role, is to be able to give advice without putting their personal opinions on these policy matters. I think that that's super important. I think when we ask the other city employees to come up and we ask them questions, we're hoping to hear facts. We're hoping to hear enough facts that we're able to come up with our own opinions and make our own determination. And I'm hoping that whoever it is that the council ends up choosing, that it's an individual that'll be able to do that. They'll be able to, I think that Attorney Ruano was probably, if not one of the best city attorneys that we've had, at least while I've been paying attention. And I think that she was able to really do her job really well, where, I remember instances where she pushed back. And when we would ask for an opinion on a matter, that's kind of entering more on the political side, and what she could tell us is XYZ, and she didn't want to engage in sort of this other piece, because that just was not her turf. And I think that when you're the city attorney, you are in this very unique place where, as attorneys, you think that you're there pushing for a certain agenda, because that's what you do in court. You push for one side to win. When you're the city attorney and you're representing the entire city, but you're being employed by us, the city council, I think that role shifts, and you have to have a certain mindset and be strong in your convictions and your professional sort of like responsibility to be able to push back and say no. And I hope that whoever we end up choosing tonight is able to do that. And the good thing to note is that if we end up choosing someone tonight and things don't work out, I think the council should ensure that within our contract that we're reviewing these individuals to make sure that they're in line with our expectations of this very, very important position. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate the comments. I don't think there's any other questions or comments on this matter. What I would like to see happen, I would look for a motion this evening to table this matter to allow our colleagues to be able to vote, so we have a full body on there. So is there a motion for us to table this matter at this time?
Motion to table.
Motion made. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Reyes. No discussion on table matters. Please call the roll, clerk.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes, and Counselor Piano, we did not hear your vote. Will you register your vote now?
I said present.
Thank you. Thank you. The motion to table passes. Counselors, at this point, there is I'm going to move the new business items over at this point. When we're done with moving the new business to the committees, I would look for a motion this evening for us to not to adjourn, but essentially to recess until February 21st for the purposes of listening to the mayor's State of the City address. And we would have that done prior to our normally scheduled meeting on that day. So at this point, let's go through the new business. Document 2323, authorization to expend grant funds, $185,978.08 for FYE 911 training grants going to the Budget and Finance Committee. Document 2423, authorization to expend grant funds, $405,377 FY 23 E91 support and incentive grant. That's going to the Budget and Finance Committee. Document 2523, handicap parking, 94 Saratoga Street. That's going to the Ordinance Committee. 2623, Merrimack Transportation Corporation, renewal of taxi livery license. That is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 2723, Popular Taxi Company LLC, renewal of taxi license. Livery license is going to the Ordinance Committee. 2823, American Taxi, renewal of taxi livery license is going to the Ordinance Committee. 2923, Liberty Taxi, renewal of taxi livery license is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 3023, Five Star Express Transport LLC, renewal of taxi livery license is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 3123, NYC United Transportation, renewal of taxi livery license, Ordinance Committee. Document 3223, L&M Transportation, renewal of taxi and livery license, that is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 2320, thank you, 3323, Rio Hondo Transportation, renewal of taxi livery license, that is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 3423, handicap parking, 153 Willow Street, is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 3523, handicap parking, 85 Willow Street, that's going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 3623, proposed ordinance for the Chief of Staff position is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 3723, proposed ordinance for Airport Manager, that is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 3823, no parking here to corner Prospect Street, corner of Prospect Court by Councilor Anna Levy, that is going to the Ordinance Committee. 3923, stop sign facing Prospect Court put on by Councilor Anna Levy is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 4023, municipal aggregation by Councilor Pavel Piano and Mayor Brian DePena. We lost Councilor Piano. I was going to ask him what that is. What is that?
It allows you utilities both from a
That is going to the Ordinance Committee. The document 4423, FY 22, foster care transportation, approval to enter into an MOU, that is going to the Ordinance Committee. 4523, proposed ordinance for CAFO position, that is going to the Ordinance Committee. 4623, proposed ordinance for supervisor of energy projects is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 4723, proposed change of ordinance 2.160, non-union classification plan chart, Schedule A chart is going to the Ordinance Committee. Document 4823, proposed ordinance modification for program director for economic development is going to the Ordinance Committee. And document 4923, change Broadway to Juan Pablo Duarte Boulevard is going to the Ordinance Committee. At this point, we can still continue to do committee meetings. So let's start off with Ordinance Committee.
Next Tuesday at 7?
And you realize Valentine's Day, you're going to do it on that day? Not that I have plans myself, but you might have plans. Are you good on that day? Okay, it's okay if you say yes. You can change it later if something happens, but right now, let's plan on that happening on Tuesday at 7. Housing, nothing housing, I don't think. Personnel, I don't think there's any personnel. Budget and finance, doesn't appear to be anything on budget. Oh, they're right, the first two, yep, budget and finance. What do you?
Question. All right, on Wednesday at 7.
Wednesday at 7, budget and finance. What are we missing?
Council President, can we change it for Monday at 7?
You could. Sure, do you want to do it on Monday at 7?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Uh,
Ordinance.
We,
No?
Well-
What day is much better for you? To Huh? On Monday? Okay. Oh, maybe we can do it a little early.
What?
I don't care. Monday. Wednesday? What about Wednesday?
Okay.
So what meeting is on Wednesday right now? Budget and finance, at what time are you gonna do the budget and finance?
7 p.m.
So how many, you only have a one item, no? 2 items?
Two
Can
items,
you do
yes.
it at 6 o'clock, that we can do it at 7?
I will also recommend to the budget and finance, you do have ARPA. That's going to be, I would imagine, a significant part of the meeting. Just,
If we're gonna have ARPA, it's gonna be
A long
a long meeting.
Right, we have to keep it on Tuesday. Yeah. Thursday? What about Thursday? So, okay, we can do it on Thursday.
sounds like a deal. We're haggling. So thank you. I think we got all our public safety. You're not doing anything, are you? Public safety? Oh, you? What do you got? Talk about it at the 21st. Okay, so there we go. So we got all our committees, our committees are done. At this point, I'm looking for a motion to recess. Is there a motion? Motion made. Is there a second? Motion to recess until February 21st. Motion been made, has been seconded, and we will reconvene at 7 o'clock on that Tuesday night, the 21st. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Oh, actually, wait. Clerk, there he's back. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
Councilor Payano, go ahead. We're going to continue. I know you want to vote on this. We're not going to let you hanging. Continue with the vote, and we're going to get that taken care of.
Is it motion to
Recess.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go back to Councilor Payano. Councilor, do you have a vote on this? The clerk heard a yes. Counselor Payano, we have you, we thought we heard you, we can confirm it as a yes. So I think that is the vote. So there we go. Motion has passed to recess. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.